All right, ready?
Yeah, mate. Fire away.
All right. So, welcome everyone to episode 9 of Wasted with Wize. This evening, let's see, what am I drinking tonight? Well, it's in this thing. My wife said it's something different, so I don't know what it is. So my wife has spiked my punch tonight, and kind of scared to find out what it is. So if you don't get any more shows after this one, you sort of know what happened. And my wife is pretty much living the life in Bermuda or Bahamas, or I think she actually wants to go to Australia, ironically enough, with the insurance money. So yeah. So if there is no show on anymore, you will know what happened in tonight's drink. So as expected, everyone is coming in a little bit whenever they can, if you will. So we will go ahead and get started, and that's not a big deal because we did start half an hour early today. So I am, as always, the Wise Old Gamer, and we got a lot to talk about tonight. And we have one of our guest members. He is our, if you will, our little Chippendales, our stripper from down under, David Faulkner. How you doing, David? David.
Hello. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing well. So how's the stripping life going for you, man?
Oh, it's not paying too well at the moment, but cold weather and such. All good otherwise. How are you going?
Doing well. What are you drinking? Anything besides coffee?
No, just straight black coffee at the moment.
What time is it there, by the way?
It's 8:10 on Saturday morning.
Well, it's 5:00 here on a Friday evening, so you need to go ahead and start drinking. As they say, it's 5:00 somewhere, so it's 5:00 here. So, have you been playing anything good, anything exciting, anything worth talking about?
Not really. Bit dull at the moment. I've still been helping the son with his Kingdom Hearts stuff and some Pokemon stuff and some Lego stuff, but been keeping an eye on what's happening over at Tokyo Game Show, and Melbourne International Game Week is about to start in the next week or so, and we've got PAX Australia happening in a couple of weeks' time. So, yeah, not playing stuff so much as just keeping an eye on a heap of cool indie games that are about to start showing up.
Oh, okay. So anything that you're looking forward to in the immediate future?
Hollow Knight? What's it? Not Hollow Knight.
Silk Song?
Oh, no. Oh, yeah, Silk Song is definitely one. Sorry, there's another one.
I was about to say, do you know when that sucker's coming out? Because everyone else is waiting for that one as well. So
it won't be out till early next year. They're putting another round of polish on it. So, what was the other one that's called? I can't remember the proper name. I just call it the Combat Wombat game. That thing looks amazing.
That furry animal game that's coming out for Xbox Game Pass, where it kind of reminds me of Fall Guys, but with little plush teddy bears. Is that the one you're talking about?
No. This is a different one. It's made down here in Australia. It's like Hollow Bastion or something like that. And yeah, you play as a wombat, going around third person, to kind of like Ken Bridge of Spirits, but with a wombat and not with and you're taking on other little marsupials. That's one that looks pretty cool. The reason that one looks cool to me is not only can you sort of jump over your enemies, you can burrow underneath. So it gives you another dimension in your combat skill and capabilities, which is cool. What was another one? Broken Roads. You'd have seen I've been tweeting about that a little bit. Broken Roads, isometric RPG. A lot of people compare it to Disco Elysium. It's getting a release really soon, which is cool. So I'm looking forward to seeing a bit more of that one.
Oh, okay, yeah. So have you played Disco Elysium yet, David? Keeps going in and out. All right, so while I think he's got some mic issues going, but anyhow, let me introduce my first panelist. I would have something clever to say, but he's not that clever to begin with, so he's not worth my time. Darth Praxis, how are you doing?
Eat a dick. But thank you very much. You're a good guy. You got
Yeah,
to stop pulling from the same sources, man. Come on. Or at
the
least,
fact that I can still pull it is amazing. That's the main thing.
Talk to your wife about that. How many kids you got? Better pull it. I'll just say.
Hey, after 20 years of marriage, that's the only way to get stretches if you pull it. That's it. It doesn't work anymore after that.
Wonderful.
Well, it's a good thing I can say that because she's on dinner. She's going out for a dinner party tonight. So all the despicable things I can say, I have
Get away with it.
Yeah, exactly. A free reign to say anything I want. So yeah. There's always love. There's love there, I think. Right? Yeah.
Supposedly.
Yeah. Oh, before you go into what you're playing and everything, I want to say to everybody in the chat, RPG88 at DE, thank you for showing up, guys. And yeah. So if you have any questions, please let us know, and we will definitely answer it. And as the panelists, as the time goes on, we started 30 minutes. So you're probably wondering where's the rest of the panelists. We started 30 minutes earlier this time, so everyone is slowly coming in. Loke has a show before this. He's the pre-show to my show, so he's going to come in, and we got a couple more people as well. So yeah, Praxis. So what you drinking, dude? What you drinking?
I would get it, but it's downstairs. I didn't grab it before I jumped on. It is Guinness.
Guinness. Oh,
Nice.
Yes.
Oh man.
Nice.
Have you? My bet. You know what I love to do with Guinness, and I did not know this was not a thing on the other side of the pond. I love drinking a dark and tan. Have you ever heard of that?
Oh, the black and tan, yeah.
Yeah, we call it dark and tan down here, and it's like Guinness mixed with, I guess, your traditional ale or
Bass
IPA.
ale and Guinness usually.
Yeah, it's usually Bass ale, but sometimes they don't have Bass in some of the bars that I go down here. Hey, it's a Southern thing, trust me.
Yeah.
The only Bass that they have is the one that they have mounted on the back of the bar and stuff like that. So yeah, but yeah, it's pretty good. And I did not know. When I went this summer to England, I went to all these pubs and bars, and I would ask them for a dark and tan or a black and tan. They wouldn't even know what I'm talking about. So interesting. I did not know that. Yeah. Then I know it's an American thing. All right, so you can go ahead and get it. It's not a big deal. At least somebody's drinking. As I said, there's something in this thing. There's something in this thing. I don't know. Tonight, I wish I knew what I was drinking. My wife gave me something. It tastes pretty darn good. So you might have to take up the hosting duties after this show.
Sure, it's not poisonous. Everything's fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. So
She's going out with the girls and set you up with a drink. Yeah, you're gonna be asleep in like 5 minutes.
I think eventually she wants to collect the insurance money and go to where Mr. David Faulkner is, retire there. And so,
That's likely.
So
Travel to the future.
Exactly. They need a lot of money down there. So she's like, oh, yeah, once you croak, I'll have enough money to go live down there. So, yeah. So, all right. So,
I have a friend down there. She was she's a YouTuber and a streamer, and she was telling me she wants that new skin. The one that they're selling in I think October. It's the new one for the Series X.
Oh, the
it's
Starfield
the wrap.
skin.
It's the Starfield one, and it's
burrito,
not selling. Yeah. I don't think it's coming out down there, and so she was all like upset. So well, look into it, but I'm telling you, the shipping's going to be hell. And it was like $250 just to ship it. And I went, oh yeah, it's a little rough.
Oh wow. $250 for a wrap.
Well, it's all flight, dude. You got to fly it there. I mean, it's a long flight.
Shit.
The joys of being at the bottom of the planet.
Yeah.
Well, you say that, right? But Hawaii is actually the same situation, and that's a U.S. state. You would think that they would keep integrity.
It's similar.
The domestic flight quarter of the way around the planet.
Yeah,
exactly.
It would actually be harder. I think it would be more expensive if I remember correctly. If it was like in Fiji, because there's no place to land. You gotta land near it and then ship it in on a boat.
Yeah, you got to land. I think it's Vanuatu or somewhere like that. It's got one airstrip.
Yeah,
you can walk. You can literally walk across Fiji in a day.
Yeah, it's tiny.
Wow. It's just one of those things that, like you sort of get accustomed to a certain price range for your goods so that when you go into another country and you see how much they have to pay for those same goods, you get like a sticker shock. You're like, really? You pay this much crap for this much money for this thing?
Get mad. Be like, what the fuck is wrong with these people? Why would they allow this to happen? what are these companies doing?
Well, you know, like
man.
in Europe, everywhere we would go, we would get like an 8-ounce Coke for the same price that we could pay for a 20-ounce Coke here.
Mhm.
And then like there was no free refills. They were like every time my kid would finish their drink or something, he would order another one. We thought there were free refills because we're so used to getting free refills here. We would get the we got the bill the first time we got it. We're like, what the hell? What is this? Like 10 drinks of
Dude,
why are you
there's no alcohol in his Coke. What the hell's wrong with you? Why is it so
Exactly.
fucking expensive? Oh, God. Is it
Mm-mm.
rum?
Oh wow. Well, I mean, I guess it's that never-ending drink that sort of explains the obesity epidemic and the diabetes epidemic here, right? So,
Yeah. Triple, good to see you. I'm not letting
hey.
you
Speaking of my next panelist, who also came in fashionably late, which I'm still grateful that he came in because God knows I got some other people tonight that were like, "Oh my God, I'm so sick." Okay, but no. If my panelists that are not here tonight because they're not feeling well because they have family issues, family comes first. This is just bullshit. So you do what you need to do. There will always be a Wasted with Wise every Friday, I think, assuming there's nothing noxious in this, So, yeah. So, Triple, I would say something wise, but unfortunately, you guys have got me sort of in a corner, so I don't have nothing wise to say. So there you go. There's your introduction. Leave with it.
I thank you, I guess. Hello, how are you? Yes, I'm here. Before you ask what I'm drinking, is water. I probably had too much caffeine in the last few hours, so I probably should just drink water.
Okay. Did you have caffeine in an interesting form, or was it just coffee?
You gotta repeat that. I was messing with my headphones, so I just saw your mouth moving by. Hear what you said.
I said, did you at least have caffeine in an interesting form, or was it just straight black coffee? Or
I don't know. I mean, energy drinks. I guess if that's interesting, energy drinks and like G Fuel stuff. That was it. So
okay,
yeah.
so at least did you do what's that drink with Red Bull and that alcohol, that rum in it? What do they call it? Those
I know what you're talking about.
Is it called Blue
Something
Balls or
bomb,
something like
something
that? Yeah.
bomb, something bomb. I think I don't know what the title is. Like vodka and Red Bull or something like that.
Yeah.
Or
At
you're wearing something else.
tell me you had something like that, right, in your energy drink.
Maybe I don't know. Red Bull. I don't get fancy with my stuff, so I'm just a simple person. Just go to the nearest convenience store, grab something off the fridge, and call it a day.
At least if Supa was here, he would at least have the decency to say he drank a hard Monster. You could say you drank a hard Red Bull or something like that. Lie to us, guys. We want to be lied to.
I had a. Well, you want me? I had the finest caffeine straight from, I don't know, insert country that only focuses on coffee and caffeine, and it was a delicacy on my way to Chicago and back. It was awesome.
Colombia.
I don't know. Maybe let's go with that. Whatever gets the people interested and hyped up. They say I can relate to that.
This is a fucking train wreck. We got to move on to the first topic. I mean, anyhow, so this is not okay. Any of you got? Let's start with Praxis. Okay, finally he got his beer. So let me go to you, Praxis. Have you been playing anything interesting this week?
Actually, yes. And I'm not telling you. Fuck you, man. Actually, the First Descent. So
the First
Descent.
How is it?
Yeah.
The game where instead of telling me about how cool it is, people are just sharing the Frost Lady in her chest. And I was like, oh
yeah. And TNA, baby. It's a great game. Love it. Actually, it's a lot like Outriders in a lot of similar ways, but it's more like Outriders, Destiny, and Warframe, like all mixed up. And the gameplay is actually pretty good. I don't know. Outriders left me cold after a while. I was playing it, and it just got old for me. And I don't know, the loop just didn't pull me in. But this one did. This one definitely much more interesting. The gameplay is it's not perfect because I mean it's not. I wouldn't say it's a AAA as far as like a AAA studio per se. Kind of not really. It's not like EA or it's not a major studio. But they've done a hell of a job, and it's all running on Unreal 5, and it's pretty impressive looking for what it is. Like I said, there's it's rough around the edges, but the gameplay is actually quite enjoyable, and it's kind of nutty. I like literally about 10 minutes before I got on here was finishing up a mission. So really good.
What motivated you to go to that? I mean, there's so many other games out right now. Everyone's complaining about like their back catalogs, and of course, Starfield being what it is, and whatever.
What's
Baldur's Gate 3.
It's a limited time open beta that ends on the 26th. So I figured I'd throw in there, and it's a crossplay, and I don't think it's coming out until like February next year. So at the earliest.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to see what it's like. I remember the trailer. I think it was the Xbox showcase. The trailer was on there, and it freaking got me. I was like, man, that looks amazing. I wonder what it's like. And so I remembered it, and then I got a notification on my email saying, hey, the beta just, open beta just came up. I'm like, I'm playing it. So that's why I jumped on it.
All right. Before I go to Triple and ask him what he's doing, let me introduce my next guest. This guy just came back from the doctor's appointment, and yes, sir, you do have the STD, and you are the father. Callie, how you doing?
I'm good. I mean, I still haven't got my doctor's appointment. Still waiting for the call, but you know how doctors can be.
Well, you are the father. I hate to beat Maury Povich to you, man, but you are the father. I'm sorry to say, and unfortunately, that's
it ain't one of those doctors. I swear to God.
Oh yeah, by the way, that ring around your penis is not a lipstick; it's a rash. Okay, so you need to get that fixed.
Hey! How did you get that information, man?
Hey, it's not well. Yeah, I would divulge my sources, but then anyhow. So how you been doing, man? How you been doing, man? How have you been doing?
I've been great. Just been gaming.
Okay. Have you been drinking anything? Are you drinking anything?
Not today.
Say what?
Like even my guests are pathetic. Come on now, he's just lied.
You know what, Wize? One of these days, I'm gonna buy like a case of Modelo and dedicate it only to the show.
Yeah. I mean, that's what what I'm looking for. I'm like, I am so balls to the walls about this. I'm drinking stuff that I don't even know what the fuck it is. So so there you go.
What's Praxis drinking there?
Oh, it's a Guinness.
Nice.
Nice.
It's got a decent hit on it. So.
All right.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, Callie, what have you been playing this week? You said you've been playing games. So what have you been playing?
Well, as you know, I have been buying some retro games. So recently, I've been playing some Spider-Man Web of Shadows on my own channel.
Oh wow!
Yep, been playing in preparation for Spider-Man 2, of course.
I never would have guessed.
But Web of Shadows? Why would in order to wait? Okay. If you're trying to get ready for Spider-Man 2, Web of Shadows gameplay is anything but. Why wouldn't you play the original Spider-Man or Miles?
Because Spider-Man Shadows has the closest connection with the Venom suit,
Yeah.
It takes over Peter Parker, and of course you could go down the evil route or the good guy route in Web of Shadows.
Spoilers, man. Come on.
That game's been out for years, man.
I'm joking.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? It's like it's gotten to the point with Spider-Man's story that, and I'm kind of happy when they introduced Tom Holland, they didn't go down and revisit the whole Uncle Ben scenario. So I'm kind of actually grateful that like they sort of skipped that, because everyone should know that what sort of motivated Spider-Man was the death of his uncle. But they need to do something with the Venom suit. Okay, yeah, Peter Parker, and then Eddie Brock, and then I forgot the guy who got.
Already with the text, you can see something different that they're doing, like with the tendrils that you can do with the combinations for Venom, or when you're wearing the Venom suit in the new game.
But you know what I would like to do is, like, instead of having Venom be the guy that like corrupts Peter Parker and makes him sort of evil for the time being, they should do something where Peter Parker loses the Venom suit, but he still retains that evil streak about him. So the guy who gets the new symbiote is actually the good guy, and the Peter Parker in his traditional costume is the bad guy. I would like to see a what if or something like that, something of that nature. So I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just something different, like we've been having the same story, same story since like Todd McFarlane created guy, right? So, yeah.
You enjoy your time on the island there by yourself.
Hey, okay, look, I can dream. Okay, that's all I got to say. I can dream. All right.
So
okay.
Yeah, that's where you keep the dreams to yourself, though. So definitely.
Look. After drinking whatever the hell is in this thing, I ain't keeping nothing to myself, dreams or otherwise. So, anyhow, so Triple, what you been playing tonight?
Yeah, so I started Liza P this week. Started streaming that one, trying to get back to the streaming scene, and it's decent. It's a solid Soulsborne game in the sense of like it hits the notes correctly, but I'm trying to figure out what separates it from other titles as aspiring to be. So, but it's good so far. I'm only 1 to 2 hours in, so I can't really say too much about it, but I like it so far. Just hope
Does the
there's
story not really grab you, or
I mean, it's kind of the same. It's set if you're familiar, it's set in the Pinocchio or inspired by Pinocchio, but more dark telling of it.
Yeah.
And I haven't, if familiar with Souls games, you gotta examine the items, talk to the NPCs, and like I said, I haven't gotten too far into it, so I can't really say too much aside from at the start of the game. The world is essentially have puppets assisting people with their day to day, and something caused them to become corrupt and killed everyone. So that's the biggest. But that's
it's the Matrix with Pinocchio. That's interesting.
Yeah, something like that. But so it's what's the initial hook is what's caused this corruption to happen, and just trying to find answers there. So, but that's about it. And yeah, it's okay. I have a few complaints, but I'm not gonna take like 30 minutes explaining that complaint because I try to explain to my friends. It's kind of convoluted in how I tell it, but it's good so far. Nothing major. And I also tried. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say it wasn't a fairy that Geppetto made a deal with. It was the devil. That's probably the problem.
I don't know. I spoke to Gemini. Gemini is like your companion, and that's about it. And I also tried the first Ascendant. By tried, I mean I jumped in. I picked Ajax, the defense guy. I beat the tutorial, air quote tutorial boss, and I haven't played since. But I plan on playing once I hop off the show with you guys. And it's okay so far. I describe it as, and actually what I read someone describe it as is like Warframe meets Anthem type of deal, and Outriders comparison as well. Dark is pretty good. I probably only put like 30 minutes into it, and my only complaint so far is just like the sound really takes me out of the experience. Like some things just lack impact, or some of the sound just isn't working all together. So this made some of the interactions and the cutscenes and stuff awkward.
Oh yeah. It's rough around the edges, like I was saying.
Yeah,
there's some things that show beta and not complete.
Full game, and which is like you said, it's a beta. It plans to be a free game, so how much will the room people will give it for that? But again, I have experienced the systems and the full gameplay experience, so I can't really say if everything else is polished enough. But I'll be playing after the show, and as usual, I'm playing Destiny. So yeah, nothing new there.
Okay, cool. So do you think that it deserves the reputation that it's getting? People are pretty much saying that Liza P is basically the Bloodborne itch for Xbox. I mean,
I wouldn't say. I mean, like if you want to say what's a Bloodborne style game available on Xbox, for sure you can say Bloodborne because of the theme and the setting that it takes place in. And that's the closest. Like that's pretty much it. It's set in the Gothic setting, and you're more focused on. You have the mechanics, like you don't have your traditional shield and blocking like you would in a Dark Souls game. You really relied on different tools instead of just blocking. But yeah, I guess if you're like, oh, it's dark and horror and it's a Souls, like so Xbox has a Bloodborne. I'm like, yeah, sure, let's go with that. Yeah. But yeah.
So yeah, I'm kind of like, you said that you've not yet sort of figured out what makes it.
What sets it apart from?
Well, yeah, what makes it? Well, obviously, like you would not hold it to the same level as a Bloodborne or a Demon Souls, would you?
As in
just level of just everything about the overall polish of the game, the story,
so far,
the art direction.
Like the art direction is pretty good. Like I said, it's very inspired by Bloodborne, so it picks that up pretty well. But if you're familiar with Bloodborne, it's more who's that famous horror writer that people talk about that does like Cthulhu style art? Lovecraftian. So Bloodborne is more Lovecraftian in terms of once you explore more of the game and you see the crazy things that popped up. But Liza P so far that I experienced just the Gothic horror and city setting. So I don't how much deeper go into it, but it nails it pretty well. Gameplay wise, it feels polished, so I can't, it doesn't feel like I'm fighting the game more than I am, like the enemies, if that makes sense. I just compared to when I first played the original Lords of Fallen. I was like, bro, I am fighting the mechanics more I am the enemies. So it's good so far, and I can't say too much. I did read like a review where the guy was harping on it too much when saying it doesn't set itself apart too well, and I guess my mindset is like, if the game is just a good Soulsborne experience without too much uniqueness, that's good to me because I love Souls games. Soulsborne like games, so it's not a huge hit to it. As long as overall it's a good experience. They do have some systems such as what you could do with the weapons, but like I said, I haven't explored enough. But I like it so far. Yeah.
Cool. All right, so let's go ahead and get to the topics. And well, I was going to actually talk about a couple of other smaller topics, but we don't have David on for long because I mean, obviously.
I'm sorry, David. I was talking too much, man. I apologize.
No, that's cool. I do want to get his insight on this because he is into the business aspect of it. So this is sort of his wheelhouse. Yeah, basically, if you will, his topic, basically, if you will. So obviously, unless you've been living under a rock, we pretty much had one of the biggest Xbox leaks. Almost, I would like to say ever. Would we agree? Would say ever, right?
I would say ever. I don't think I've ever heard plans for a new console and emails.
I think these are the biggest leaks ever in general from a company.
Yeah, I mean, probably the biggest confirmed leaks, right? Like we get leaks all the time in tech and in gaming all the time, right? But there's no way for us to say. We always like to say, "Oh, take this with a grain of salt." Well, there's no need to take any of this with a grain of salt because it's going to bash your blood pressure anyways.
Right there.
Yeah. So yeah. Oh, by the way, DE, yeah, I actually had those shoes, the lighting the wheelie shoes with the lights on them, but I'm so fat that the wheels would never come down. So
he was so fat the wheels came.
Yeah,
they just crushed.
They would stay inside. They're like, there's no way in hell this man is going to be wheeling me down the street. So yeah, okay. But anyhow, so yeah, biggest leak in history. So David, I obviously want to go to you first and get you must have read all about this, and I just want to get your opinion. Now, Microsoft is blaming the FTC. FTC is blaming Microsoft about the source of the reasoning for the leaks, but that's not important as to who leaked it. What is more important is what was said. Loke, how are you doing, man? Thank you for coming on in, dude.
I thought we were down panel members.
We are down. We
got like two guests. Two guests are in here.
Yeah. It's 6 of us in this motherfucker.
Yep. Supa has family
issues. Call Ham and Cozy and Matt.
Yes. Bring him in.
Are we supposed to speak for 5 seconds and then move on to the next?
Oh, come on. Nobody fucking speaks for 5 seconds.
No, we're doing the circus style.
Okay. And David is only here for half an hour anyways. Oh, can you let David talk and tell Ham and Cozy come on in your agreement, please? Jesus Christ. You just tell somebody to do something. Faulkner. Oh, Jesus Christ. He doesn't even know.
Oh, it's the Falker. Falk. Why don't you put a picture?
Not David Fucker. Faulkner. You just call him Fucker.
Oh.
God. Oh, no. This man just came in and just derailed the whole show.
David, do not.
That's usually what he does, man.
David, we have to apologize for Loke because he's developed Tourette's recently. So
apologize. Dave is my guy. That's my.
You just call him a fucker. You just call him a fucker.
I don't hear no one denying it. No, I'm joking.
Carry on.
I'm
gonna
sorry,
put on
man.
WFC Generations, man. Fuck you. Make some rally games.
No, but it's. Do I need to send the link to Cozy and Ham?
I already sent the link. They're not available right now, but they will jump in as soon as possible. They won't be doing video though.
That's fine. That's cool. All right, David, you still with us? Even though, I'm sorry about Loke and his Tourette's, dude. And I mean, we can't control his mouth. He just says fuck anytime he wants to say it. So I'm sorry he called you David Fucker. So, but
I did not say.
It's all right, Loke. I've got you, mate. You're all good.
Thank you. So, I need to fight.
So honest, okay, David. But let me get your take on this. Like, okay, generally speaking, like
Yes.
number one, the size of these leaks, the gravity of these leaks, it can't be a good show for Microsoft, or actually, does it help Microsoft's case?
Oh, I wouldn't say what's in the leaks helps their case, particularly in the court of public opinion. However, it's it probably goes a little way to show that due care and attention is quite important when you're dealing with the courts. So, yeah, someone clearly forgot to do their job properly.
Oh, somebody's getting fired for this.
I like how earlier on we was like, oh man, that Sony guy used the wrong marker. And it's like someone just fucked up altogether on Xbox's side.
They didn't even
they
use
must
the marker
have-
on this one.
Yeah, the budget cuts are harsh over at Microsoft. They can't even afford a thick Sharpie. Terrible. Terrible. I'm a kid.
They can't even afford to censor out their shit.
Exactly.
Terrible.
I mean, this literally feels like, you know, like somebody. This feels like that scene from The Hangover when they wake up in the morning and they just look around. They're like, "What the fuck just happened?" You know, that type of situation. It feels like these guys. They just woke up one morning and they're standing in the middle, in court on courtside and butt ass naked. You know, like, and they're like wondering what the heck to do next. I mean, everything is out to see, the cheeks and everything. You know, so yeah. Go ahead. You're saying?
Oh, it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. There was, they had to submit these documents, and clearly when they submitted them to the FTC, as soon as you give something to the courts in, America, Australia, UK, most of those, Western countries, as soon as something becomes submitted to the courts, it's public documents. So you've got to redact it yourself before you hand it over. They're not going to know what to redact. They're not going to know what's considered, critical business secrets or anything like that. So if you don't do that yourself, you're basically putting your hand up and saying anyone and everyone that wants to access this can access this. So, and yeah, whoops.
Whoops is understatement. I think it's a big ass. I saw these leaks. At first, everyone was talking about it in the beginning when this first hit, the mainstream. At first, they were talking about these leaks, and I was actually at work. I didn't think anything. I'm like, yeah, whatever. Leaks of what? The next generation or whatever. That's so far out. Who cares? But then I saw what all was in this leak, and I'm like, holy shit, this is pretty much everything. There's like, there's like no more secrets. You don't not only know who the father was, but the mother was, and grandparents as well. Jesus Christ.
And what position it happened in, and who was on top.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, look, there's a lot of detail in there. A lot of it is old. And speaking from a business operations perspective, that roadmap is a snapshot in time of the plan, and plans can change the next day. And I've been involved in that every year. Every time you sit down, you do your forward projections, you do your budgets, you do your plans, you tell everyone what they need to do to achieve them. And the next day something pops up and completely changes everything. So the flexibility that's built in to a lot of these things, like that graph where they're showing, we need to make sure growth occurs out to 2027 or we won't necessarily be in gaming space anymore. That could change in the next 3 months. That could change in the next 2 years. There were some interesting comments that came out of those leaks, though, that I thought were vindicating or confirming suspicions. We went from Game Pass subscriptions went from, I think it was 16, 18 to 25 million, and then they just stopped talking about it for ages. And one of those leaked documents that the conversation was Game Pass subscribers 25 million. Has it grown since? No, it's effectively stalled. It's not growing at all. All right. How long's that been? The last 8 or 9 months. That was up to that point. We don't know what's occurred beyond that point. So it may have stayed stalled. It may have improved. No one really knows. And And then you look at the other information that came out with the performance to the end of March 2023. And it was still saying it was at 25 or 26 million Game Pass subscribers. So the thing's stalled out for the last 18 months, 2 years. Well, if you take that and you apply it to their forward projection that came out and you try and marry the two together, it's not necessarily a good look. But then you take what's occurred, look at your plan, and then you work out, right, well, how do we get back on track? What do we need to do to that? As soon as you action those options, the plan's out the window because you've reassessed everything and you've reset everything. So most of what's been presented is old news that may or may not have changed completely in the last 3, 4, 6, 12 months, 18 months, however long it's been since they did that. So a lot of people are, running around with it, waving the flag and carrying on about it being this, that, and everything else. I don't think that's the important piece. The roadmap certainly is eye-opening in terms of what's likely to be coming, probably akin to the GeForce Now leak.
Yeah.
I think we're talking in that realm, but the problem is so many of those games aren't even in design phase yet, or construction phase rather. They've had conceptual work done and they haven't even made it out of pre-production. And look at the current pipeline progress of some of these studios that are doing these games. We could be 2028, 2030 before we see them. It's good to see. It's like looking through a window. It's good to see what's coming, but we don't know how far away some of this stuff is now compared to when they first planned it. So,
well, one thing I really wanted you to touch on was, and you've always talked about on our podcast and other podcasts out there about how Game Pass, and you sort of talked about it now here, Game Pass is not doing what Microsoft thought it would do. And they also said that in their leaks, that if it doesn't hit some sort of critical mass by 2027, they could foresee them exiting the game space. But then the problem with all of that is this, though, right? One side of them are talking about potentially, if Game Pass doesn't grow to whatever their numbers are, whatever their internal projections are, them leaving the game space or the hardware space. And then they're showing new hardware or, mid-gen refreshes. Yep. And they're talking about that. So how serious do you think Microsoft is in shuttering Xbox in the form that we see it in now? Or do you think that it just was hyperbole on their part?
No, well, look, in businesses that size, it's all systems charging on ahead until someone says, "All stop." And the half a dozen times I've been involved in shutting down a business unit or ceasing production in a business unit or just shutting down a company full stop, you don't tell anyone. It sounds harsh, but it needs to happen in that manner, that you don't tell anyone that things are going to stop and stop on a certain date until you are absolutely certain that's what's going to happen. Because any kind of potential innuendo or, sort of rumor mongering about, well, we might do this as an option, and people will jump ship and you might as well just turn it off that day, because the motivation and the productivity and everything just disintegrates and people start moving on from that point onwards, basically. So you lose your workforce effectively just fails, jumps ship. Generating new hardware or developing new hardware requires R&D, and it requires upfront investment. You've got to get your production line and your supplier lines, procurement lines all in order, and that stuff can take 6, 12, 18 months just to get the contracts in place. So, they're talking mid-gen refresh by 2024, 25, whatever it was, for the digital-only Xbox. They're already down that pathway of setting that program up. It's committed to. So what'll happen is, if they get to an option trigger where they're either in or out, at that meeting, they will have the conversation of, did we meet the requirements? Yes or no? If no, then what's our secondary point? Do we sell it or do we shut it down, or what are we doing here? Do we eke it out another few months? And there'll be certain metrics that they'll look at and they'll go, look at the market, look at our metrics, look at our performance, look at our options. And the fallback position for these guys is what is in the best interest of the shareholder. And the easiest way to do that is relate all the options available back to an earnings per share impact. And it's not like just an immediate one, it's an ongoing one. If it turns out that selling it's the best option, well, they'll go and incur the expenditure of selling it. If turning it off tomorrow is the best option, well, they'll just send out a notification to everyone and say, thank you for your service. Your final day's tomorrow. Your final paychecks will be sent to you. Thank you very much. Have a great time. And they'll just do that. And that's why senior executives stay so removed from the shop floor workers, because they just make that decision and off we go. I don't,
but what do you think
and
the
no one will know
likelihood of that
what the trigger
happening,
points are. Well, it depends on the drag. The likelihood of it happening is it depends on the financial. I don't know, everyone hates talking about numbers when you talk about games, but they're companies, they're businesses, and the bottom line is the dollars. The drag on the earnings per share or the cost to the overall company will dictate whether they continue to do it or not. Nintendo and PlayStation are both in unique situations where they're top of the tree. Xbox isn't. Xbox isn't top of the tree in their relative holding companies. Xbox is near dead last now. Even once they get ABK, there's no guarantee that they'll actually step up the ladder. And if they can't be profitable from day one after this acquisition gets cleared and it starts to be recorded in their books, as per what the Microsoft CFO said, not the Xbox CFO, the Microsoft CFO, they can't be profitable from day one, which means an increase to the earnings per share for the shareholders, then they'll consider that as a failed venture. And if it's a failed venture, then what do? You've got all of this IP, all of this sellable property. Unless you can find someone to offload it to, you've got no option but to turn it off. So the likelihood of it happening is, it depends on the appetite of the shareholders, but the likelihood of it happening is increased if they cannot make the thing make money for them. And at the moment, it's not.
Okay. Ham, thank you for coming in, man. How are you doing?
I'm not doing too bad, brother. What's going on? Thanks for the invitation.
And thanks for coming in at such short notice, dude. I'm very grateful for this. Just wanted you heard David's comments. I don't know how much of it you were able to listen in on, but we're just talking about the general scope of these leaks, and specifically one aspect that I did want to touch in on, and I was asking David the same question, was they were talking about how if Xbox doesn't achieve, or Game Pass doesn't achieve a certain critical threshold by 2027, that they might consider shuttering their doors. But then in the same leak, they also showed, next generation consoles and mid-gen refreshes, and new controller, extra games in the pipeworks, and just generally getting your opinion about this whole situation. What do you think of the likelihood of it happening? And what is your overall impressions of the leak? Do you think it was a bad move on it? I mean, do you think it's an egg on Xbox's face, or do you think in some ways it actually might have helped Xbox?
I honestly think it's a little bit of both. I mean, just depending on what information you're actually looking at. So, like, if you're looking at like something like the Nintendo leak part of that, then you're like, oh, they look like they're looking to do something big and shake things up continuously. But I feel like we've already knew about that for quite some time. But then again, if you look at what you just got done saying with the whole 2027 thing, then that's a little frightening. It's interesting to note like the dates on these emails and stuff like that, as for when did this kind of make sense, or where does this piece in the puzzle fit, I guess. I personally, I think it's crappy that it came out, but all in all, it doesn't matter at the end of the day if they get what they want. If they get what they want, it doesn't matter. they don't get what they want, then they feel like, they ran out the house without pants on.
Okay. So, do you think this is going to help them sort of get their means to an end, if you will?
What in particular?
Well, let's just talk about, okay. So we got news this evening that the CMA has temporarily approved their merger with Activision Blizzard. Actually,
Right.
we just got a tweet for that. So, what do you think is Xbox's goal, and do you think this was going to help? Like in the sense that, like, oh, I mean, at the end of the day, they're here to make money. But do you think that it is? Do you think that this ABK deal is that they've been fighting for, and the reason all of this has come to light is because of this ABK deal? Do you think these leaks coming out is going to help their cause to get ABK? And do you think at the end of the day, like David was implying, if ABK does not help them, they will shutter their doors?
I don't think that Xbox is shutting the doors anytime soon. I'm not just saying that from being a fan. I'm just saying that due to the climate, in my opinion, of where gaming has gone and how interested others are kind of interested in, like, trying to get into it, but not really understanding a way how to do so. So I think that they're kind of all in, or not kind of, but I think they're completely all in on it. And they just really, at the end of the day, just need to make smart decisions with what they purchase and not let a redfall happen every other year or something like that. Really, consistency is, at the end of the day, the biggest hurdle for them, because I feel like that's where they've been struggling the most. As soon as you feel like they're on a roll, they kind of backtrack, and then when they're backtracking, then they find like they find a golden egg all of a sudden, and then we start to think, oh, they're maybe going to be on a roll again, and then they backtrack. So it's just really all about consistency at the end of the day. As for the leaks, and do I think that it's going to help Microsoft? I don't think the leaks are going to do anything really at all. I think the leaks are just what they are. They're just leaks, and if anything, they're trying to like dodge saying anything at all costs about that kind of stuff, because they don't want to confirm anything. They don't want to say, oh, this didn't happen or this didn't work. You'll just kind of have to wait and see on that end. But so I'm hoping I answered your questions there, but
Yeah.
let me know if I didn't, so I can specifically nail.
Well, let me bring up.
I feel like that was like kind of a compounded question.
Yeah, it was a compounded question, but you did good in answering. Let me actually open up the rest of the panel. Praxis, Triple, Callie, Loke. Before we get into the specifics of what was being said in general, I do want to sort of focus in on this 2027 date. What do y'all think? Do you think this was just hyperbole, or do you think that there is some credence with this this email, or what? Like, do you really think that there is a chance that we might see Xbox change 180 degrees from what it is now if Game Pass sort of falters?
Well, anything can happen. Like David was saying, I agree with him. Anything could happen. It all depends on how well they do in the market. I don't think it will, but I think it would take a lot more to really make it fail. I don't know if Game Pass would be it. I don't know what you would consider Game Pass failing. If it stays where it is, they've raised the price of Game Pass, and they're still making money with it. It's just, are they making enough money to keep it going, or do they need to grow it substantially to make it viable because of all the things that they're putting in it and all the money that they're laying out for it? So yeah, that could have an effect. Yeah, that can definitely have an effect, and it could make them rethink anything. But I think laying out a roadmap like that is normal in business. They're going to normally look at different options and viabilities and look at where it's going and where it might take them and where it might not. And there's always plans, if they're a good company, of what they should do if things work and if things don't. And that's just kind of thinking ahead. Most companies I've worked for didn't think that far ahead. So that's saying that. As far as the leak, I think it's just a bunch of static in the community of everybody freaking out over things that, like we
I
said,
agree.
most of us already knew. I mean, Nintendo,
Right,
yeah,
that Nintendo
that was
thing ain't
years
new.
ago. That was
Right?
years ago. They were talking to Nintendo. They said, "Yeah, we talked to Nintendo. If they would have sold to us, it'd be great." And him saying we'd be interested, we're playing the long game. Yeah, I mean, shit. That's the golden goose of all the ones out there. Nintendo's the big one. If they'd sell to somebody, that would basically end it. In a lot of ways, not saying that they're the best out there. It's just they would be the biggest get of any
They're objectively
publisher.
the best.
So.
Objectively, they're the best out there.
Well, I mean, that Nintendo one, let's just go ahead and go into the specifics of this, right? Like one of the biggest backlashes that we got from this leak was, oh my God, Microsoft is arrogant. Microsoft wants to buy Nintendo. Microsoft wants to buy everybody here. But like if Nintendo tomorrow knocked on PlayStation's door and said, you know what? Yeah, this whole hardware thing, we're good with games. We just don't want to be bothered with the hardware. You guys can handle that because you guys are good. You guys are Sony. You can do hand hardware. Would you buy us? Sony would figure out a way of coming up with $100 billion right then and there. I guarantee you.
Sony care too much about competition. Sony are sanctimonious saints. They're the ones who really care about
What mic is Loki using?
They're trying to consolidate. They would never do that.
I think his mic's in a can of Coke right now or something.
Yeah,
I think he threw his mic in the trash can.
Switch your mic. Look, go to the settings and switch your mic. You have it on the wrong mic, brother.
I think you got the speakers mic on. You got the headphones mic on. I think you got your headphones mic on.
Yes, that's actually what's happening.
Yeah. All right.
So, notwithstanding what Lois just said, if
Jesus. What do you mean?
Sorry.
Sony.
Sony.
Can you hear me now?
There we go.
Yes.
All hail Sony.
Sorry, I'm chuckling because of some comments that were made yesterday with some of the tweeting that I did. But the long and the short of that whole point is that Nintendo emails that it clearly illustrated to a number of people that Microsoft or Xbox leadership shouldn't say they don't respect the industry. They don't understand the complexities to a degree around pulling off something like that. I mean, look at how much trouble they had just getting Activision, and Activision's a US-based head office.
True.
Going after something that is a Category 2 listed, economic security company in Japan is not only impossible, just to even get a stake more than 10% or 12% in it. If they made an attempt to try and buy Nintendo, as they would with any of the major Japanese publishers, there'd be huge amounts of additional crap they'd have to climb through just to even get in front of the minister to plead their case. But there's no way that the Japanese government's going to allow Nintendo to get sold. It just wouldn't happen. Not to any company outside of Japan. But if Nintendo buddied up to PlayStation and said, we'll just do the games, you can make our hardware for us, there's no need for Nintendo to sell because they just do it as a partnership. But if they did try to do it, PlayStation doesn't have to show up with $100 billion to buy Nintendo. They just get a government approval and all of a sudden it'd happen and not one single cent would change hands because that's the structure they have over there. So the Bank of Japan would just fund the whole thing and pay out the majority shareholders in Nintendo. So it's not something that makes financial sense though. Like who's going to want to see that happen? It doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense, but I think and I don't believe I'm actually defending Phil Spencer here on this. I believe that Phil said that he doesn't want to go in and do like a hostile takeover where you just buy the lion's shares of the voting stock and you sort of own the company or of sorts, right? Or de facto sort of run the company. He said that I'm not going to do that. It's just that if they were ever in the situation where they were looking for a buyer, that he would definitely do it. And it would be his, what was the word that he used in his tweet? A career defining moment for him. Now that goes without saying. That would be a career-defining moment for Jim Ryan if he got Nintendo. Like, who in the heck is going to say no to the House of Mario and to the House of Zelda and 30 million
PlayStation.
consoles?
They care too much about the customer.
No, seriously, like it just makes any common sense. Like, why would they, why would anyone not say, even if it was like $200 billion? I mean, Nintendo was like,
Nintendo's not worth that much.
Yeah, that's a little bit.
Yeah, but still, I mean, you would say that Nintendo would be a viable purchase in this regard, right? So,
well, it depends on what you're aiming for.
What do you mean?
Does anyone know? Does anyone know how much Nintendo is actually worth?
Nintendo's worth?
Yeah.
Probably something like 140. I have no idea.
I thought it was 100 billion. That's what 100 billion. I thought it was 100 billion somewhere. That's what I read. I could be wrong, but and obviously
it's worth 8 trillion Japanese yen.
56.3
billion.
Billion.
56.3 billion.
Yep.
So, like, when you buy out a company, you don't pay them how much they're worth. You have to pay like whatever future future projections.
And like David said, the Japanese government would fight the hell out of that too. They would be like, that's just not going to happen. So
yeah.
So at that value, just to give a very brief context of it, Japan, Australia, and the UK and a heap of other OECD countries have this thing where if a foreign entity wants to buy a major company listed domiciled in your country, right? Mm-hmm. They have to go through all these different approvals, but there's 2 different phases to it. You have to get approval from the registered stock listing organization, which in Japan is the Tokyo Stock Exchange, and they have to get approval from the foreign investment commissions or foreign investment review boards. Either of those 2 can say no without having any reason other than just saying no, and that's it. You can't argue it in court because it's not a challenge of a law. It's not a challenge of anything in particular. All you can do is argue that they had the capacity to do it, similar to the CMA with the ABK deal. Could have taken that to the Court of Arbitrary Tribunal, but the only thing that court can do is say that they have not followed due process or that they've not been allowed to apply their process to this situation. There's no arguing around the outcome. It just gets kicked back to get reviewed again. So in Japan, if they can clear those 2 hurdles, it goes to the finance minister, the national finance minister, federal finance minister of the government, to get his approval. He has unilateral, unconditional powers to just put the no stamp on it and give no reason. And that can't be challenged. If he stamps it no, there's no recourse. It's just not in the nation's best interest, and that's it. And it's not like you can wait and try again later. That is no forever. So that's the challenge that they would be up against trying to do something like that. Yeah. It's not as simple as, we'll play the long game and see if they want to sell it. Because the best they'll ever get is investment via a Japanese-based investment organisation, in which case the voting rights would stay with the investment organisation, not with Microsoft.
All right, Callie, do you have anything to add to this?
Nothing really important. But
okay.
You're important, Callie. You're important to me, man.
You're important.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, this is all just purely kind of like
triple.
Like, I doubt Nintendo would have sold in the first place. Like, they're a valuable company. They know they are. They know what their worth is. They know that they can just grow by themselves. They don't need anybody. I don't see like what the point of them even selling would have been, even like when Microsoft was talking to them. But if this would have been like after the Wii U failure, I could have believed that they would have wanted to sell. But seeing how hot the Switch is, I don't think they're like in any position to want to sell at all now.
Oh, yeah.
Wasn't there something that came out that Microsoft actually went to Nintendo around the Wii U era, and Nintendo just pretty much laughed out their face?
No, that wasn't the Wii U era.
Yeah, that was early Xbox era. When they were starting
like the first Xbox.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. I thought it was a Wii U era. Anyone else have anything to add with a potential Phil Spencer tweet about Microsoft buying Nintendo or whatever?
I just want to add something real quick. Dave was talking about his professional, and this is me now being serious, right? From my personal experience with this thing about the whole corporate situation and emails, I don't put much stock in 99% of all of this, because what I would give value is official documents of like plans. So the roadmap for the Bethesda games, those are things that you can sit there and be like, okay, most of this is probably legit. If it changes, they probably change it because of the leaks, but there's a good chance that most of this is what's coming, right?
Mhm.
Because those seem like stuff that have been reviewed and approved. But the emails, that's just spitballing, dude. Most of what goes on in terms of emails is not set in stone. From my personal experience, you don't put any stock in any of that.
No. This is not emails of Phil Spencer to his other managers. This is Phil Spencer emailing, from what I understand, to everybody in Xbox, all of even the janitors, if you will, generally sending something. And usually when a CEO goes out of his way to write an email that goes, and David, I don't know if you can support me on this, but if a CEO goes out of his way, or COO goes out of his way to write an email to even the most lowly paid, then there is a strong degree of truth in all that.
It's the opposite. It's the opposite. That's my understanding. Before Dave goes in, my understanding is that when you send the email to the national account, to the international account, when you send it to the address that CCs everyone, you're not really saying anything.
Okay.
That's my understanding.
Oh, I don't know. I thought it was the other way around. I thought that if he's going to go out of his way to trouble himself with the peons, then he's going to make sure that whatever he says is 100% factual.
Yeah, but if you read the emails, even the language is not professional. This is not, oh, we're going to get Nintendo. Attached is the contract. Attached is also the roadmap of how we're going to acquire Nintendo.
Right.
That's the problem with the emails. If you don't just look at, oh, this is the general message. You look at the entire structure of what's happening here. This is just a spitballing session. That's what I understood from it.
Yeah, it did come off as more conversational than anything. I mean, you're right about that. It did seem like it was more like something like, for heaven, it sounded more like a journal or personal journal than even an email. It seemed like something that he would keep like a record of for himself. Like, oh, I would love to have, something like that. Like it was something you would write in somebody, like a girl would write in their diary or some crap like that. That's what it came off as. So, yeah.
You'd be surprised to know that a lot of C-level executives, ops managers and CEOs and that actually do like a blog or a journal or a weekly engagement email or something that just thumps their chest and has little to no actual proven content in it. It's just musings of their own thoughts or things that they would like to do, or just to stay engaged with the masses, so to speak.
Yeah,
but
just keep hype alive around the office, right?
Yeah. The other thing to be mindful though is, as I say this all the time, if you grab a snippet of an email or a snippet of a contract or part of a financial report in isolation and you try to extrapolate from that all these different outcomes, you're only going to ever come up with the wrong output. You have to have the whole thing read and in context, and it's difficult to get context out of emails. Now, it's not to say that, if given the opportunity, they wouldn't try and do what he outlined in those emails. But is it more factual, we're going to do this, or is it more, this would be a nice thing if we could pull it off? It's no different to some of the stuff we've seen leaked out about PlayStation. It's no different to stuff we see from Nintendo, but it's no different to any other major corporation around the world. Current organisation I work for, we've got a brilliant managing director who is very engaged with the workforce. However, his weekly blog that comes out is reminder about safety, reminder about this, reminder about that. This week I went and spoke with this organisation. This week I went and did this as part of my job. but none of it actually outlines anything to do with the corporate plan or the 5-year immediate pathway or the 10-year long outlook. And when you know, as I said before, when you're doing, you know, in 2020, when you're launching a new console, you've got a roadmap out to the next console. You have key markers of when we're going to do the next thing. And anywhere between now and that next marker, something can change and completely reset the plan. We do budget. I've been involved in it for years. You set your budget, you start your year, you get halfway through a year, you do a mid-year update, and then your mid-year update, you're looking at the next 2 or 3 years to see what's shifting. So I have no doubt that the stuff that's contained in those emails that were leaked is definitely on his mind, or was on his mind at the time. At the same point, you'd have to see the entire conversation, what led up to it, and what were the outcomes of that email and conversations and meetings to see whether they're genuinely going to have a crack at it or not. Given the current environment and given the current hurdles that they'd have to climb over, it would be an extremely hard sell from Phil's point, even being a senior vice president, to actually get some traction at the board level to go and buy a Nintendo. It just doesn't make any kind of financial sense. It doesn't make any financial sense to PlayStation to do it either.
Yeah, I think a second party would be better, more suitable. But anyhow, let's go into some more of the more juicier details. Some of the things that leaked. Mid-gen refresh. I thought Phil said that there will not be a mid-gen refresh. Maybe he said that. Maybe he meant that there would not be a new chip like it was for the.
No, he just said there's no Pro version.
There's
Pro
no
version.
X.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
the original, I think, it was Digital Foundry or someone else said the Series X is basically the One X of the generation, and the Series S is their Xbox One, and that's why they wouldn't really do another upgrade.
Okay. So the first things they announced were the mid-gen refreshes for both the Series S and Series X. The Series S mid-gen refreshes has the code name Elwood, and basically they were talking about can't speak. It said that it was going to give them faster Wi-Fi, more storage, reduced power, and a more immersive controller, all for the same affordable price. So this was actually supposed to come out next year, but when I looked at this, I was thinking, well, apart from the more immersive controller, what is the difference between Elwood, let's just call it Elwood, and their new Series S, the 1 terabyte one? I mean, it seems sort of the same.
I'm not familiar with the code names. Are you asking what's the difference with the new console that they're going for versus the Series X that's currently out?
No, I'm just talking about Series S because they've announced a new Series S. They have the 1 terabyte, and the only difference between that one and whatever this Elwood thing is supposed to be is the controller, right? So did they just sort of, the controller got delayed, and did they just sort of push this out? Is that new 1 terabyte Series S considered their Elwood, or like, what do y'all think?
Again, I don't have the paper right in front of me, so I'm familiar with they're speaking about a new controller that have like haptic controls inside of it, and then they're speaking about the new console that's a Series X that's going to be all digital. I don't think there was any reference in the new Series S model among that. So
no, that's on the screen right now. It's the new Series S. They're gonna do mid-gen refreshes of both the Series X and S. The Series S, a mid-gen refresh, is known as the Elwood, and they're talking about it having a faster Wi-Fi, more internal storage, reduced power, and a more immersive controller. For the same affordable price, which seems like what they just released with the 1 terabyte Series S, except for the new controller.
At that point, no, I see where the confusion comes from, because they had announced the Black Series S as a 1 terabyte. So I guess, as someone was saying earlier, you're in the business of you got a new product that you're pushing out, and someone's working towards another re-edition here that's supposed to come out. Where are these slated for? 2024 or 2025?
2024. These are supposed to be
2024. I guess they're trying to figure out what the Black 1 terabyte is what we can get out on the market now, and then when the refresh comes around, we got the new Series S. It's something Microsoft is gonna have to figure out when they're marketing the new box again. But Microsoft being Microsoft is all I can say, honestly.
So, what do y'all think about this relaunching of the Series S? Apparently, it's going to have the same chip, and it's going to be the binned version of the ones that are in the Series X. And I think apart from just basically a new controller and a new Wi-Fi card, I think the Wi-Fi card will have a 6E as opposed to what it currently has. Thoughts? And it's going to be at $299.
It's a newer Series S. For people that don't have the console, then there's something in it for you. Might as well get the best thing on the market if you're looking at the Series S, get a better Bluetooth and Wi-Fi card. But for people who already have the console, it's not worth the upgrade. Paying $300 for better Wi-Fi, unless you really need that better Wi-Fi, I don't really see the value behind it. And if you're okay with me hopping over to the Series X, it's kind of the same thing. If you're not in the console space right now, you're looking at the Series X, so you don't care about the disk drive, and you just want the better terabytes, specifically the terabyte more storage is what I think most people would care about rather than the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth upgrades. Then the value's there. But if you already have a Series X, I don't see why you would drop $500 for a bigger hard drive at that point, or SSD at that point, just buy the expansion card. But we've seen mid-gen refreshes, specifically like slimmer models, not higher power from last generation. So it's not anything new. It's just, hey, here's a new console upgrade for people who aren't in the ecosystem, and we'll just do something a little bit better. And the only concern I will have is I know people are going on the conversation of with this being all digital. This is meaning Xbox is basically pushing towards all digital future, and whether or not the current Series X is going to stay on the market. I understand some of the concerns that people are having, and the only thing I really can say is once the Series X is off, like the current model is off, has been discontinued, you can only buy all digital. Then I definitely understand the concern for those that are still with the physical media. Until then, hey, it's a new console on the market. I'm not going to put too much stock on it's the end of physical media, but it's not surprising if that happens, if people are familiar with the difference in sales numbers and how digital has been taking the lead for a while now, and physical is getting shorter and shorter, less popular. It's not too surprising to see both manufacturers are pushing towards all digital. Like even the PS5, I know they're talking about digital or physical attachment, but they're entertaining the idea of like, hey, we're not going to have physical consoles going forward.
It's actually funny that you talk about that because wasn't there like leaks or something from was it Tom Hendricks or somebody from the Verge that said that PlayStation was going to have like a detachable disc drive?
Yeah, that's been rumored for a while now that people have talked about a detachable disc drive for the PS5. So that's Sony's.
In theory, they've already shown the console.
That did leak out something like that a while back. We had a all digital PS5, not the current one, but what people are referencing. Yeah. So Sony, at least this is all rumor mill. Both manufacturers are basically, hey, we're almost out of the physical disc drive. It's just Sony has one foot in the water and the other's not, because they're saying if it's true that there's a detachable disc drive, then they're still giving people that option. But Microsoft is like, as far as we know, this is like, hey, at this point, all digital going forward. So yeah.
So here, I want to bring this up to anybody in the panel who wants to chime in on this. The interesting thing here about all of this is this, right? So as far as we know, it's not going to have an upgraded chip. As of when these documents were leaked, now are they going to go in and try to do something or whatever? I don't know if you can choose to upgrade a chip so late in the cycle. I think that has to come in sometime early in the beginning of the console cycle. But as far as we know, not an upgraded chip. It's all digital, and rumors are it's going to cost $500. But the interesting thing at this time is this. This thing is supposed to be launching sometime near the tail end of next year. And that's exactly around the time that we're expecting the PS5 Pro to launch. So if this thing comes out at $500, you've got the original Series X sitting there for $500 with a disk drive available. And you've got a PlayStation 5 Pro with a potentially more powerful chip inside for $500. Do you think this is going to fare well for them? So yeah, anybody who wants to chime in on this.
I'll jump in real quickly because I got to head off. Sorry.
Yeah.
So if the PS5 Pro rumored with a detachable disc drive, rumored, and the upgraded Series S and X are slated for October, November 2024. Don't forget, Nintendo's likely to drop its Switch 2, if you again rumored, September 24.
Right.
So it's going to be pretty crowded. It's everyone's going to go out and buy one of each in a 2-month period. So there's going to be a bit of competition for people's dollars. Yeah, be interesting to see if that does come to fruition. But it comes down to the purpose of buying the console is for what? To play the games and whatever additional stuff you use it for. So as long as there's a reason, we keep saying this every frigging time, but as long as there's a reason to buy it and stay in or get into that ecosystem, if the price point of entry is reasonable, people will pick it up and people will do it. And that's the challenge.
We get some mic problems at the very tail end. We lost him. Look, what do you think? What do you think if this thing comes out at the same price as the PS5 Pro? Do you think this will not end well for them, or what? Do you think it has to come in cheaper, or what? And that's assuming the 5 Pro is 500. Yes.
So two things. First off, I'm very curious to see how much Game Pass, Starfield, and the recent acquisition of Activision would have on a fresh release of a console. I would love to see the reaction from people, numbers wise, right? I'm not going to make a prediction because I didn't see 10 million people in 2 weeks. I know there's some people pretending like 10 million playing Starfield is nothing. For me, I didn't predict that, right? Even with all the hype. So that's the first one. Second, when this thing was first announced, I hated the Xbox Brooklyn.
Oh, okay. Why?
Because
Why do you like? What do you got against Brooklyn? Why do you got against Brooklyn? because
that meme is hilarious.
Because you're in Texas. That's why you hate people in New York. Why do you like it?
This guy? I am not in Texas. Stop it.
I don't know. I saw Callie's little thumbnail of you. You had a hat on. That's very convincing.
No, he had those ass-kicking snakeskin boots on. That's the thing.
Oh Lord. Okay.
No, seriously. Why did you not like the Brooklyn when it was first looked at?
Physical. I don't like. Although I live in a country that makes physical impossible. If I'm being completely honest, I've never put a disc into my PS5 or my Series X. I haven't done it. My kids have a Series S, no disc.
From what I've heard of things, you have a hard time putting things into anything, right?
I was gonna say that joke.
I had to. It was open. I had to.
You should do stand-up comedy. You really should. You should quit your day job. Promise, it's going to work out. But as far as the Series X is concerned, the whole no physical games thing, it pisses me off, and I know that it's an eventuality. I'm not one of these guys that's delusional. All right, Netflix has changed how everything works. It's in 10 years, digital will be worse than what it is now.
I don't think it's going to be gone completely. There's always going to be a market for physical.
That's the physical is going to be like vinyl music. There's definitely a market. There's definitely a market.
Even if it's still going to be viable.
Somewhere there's still a Blockbuster somewhere probably type of deal, but
no, guys, it's really not. You know why? Because you guys are probably going to have to travel to another state. You're going to have to drive for an hour to find a brick and mortar joint that sells physical. And good luck getting a place that sells AA or just indie games physical. You're going to have a situation where only the upper levels of AAA will have physical. And even then,
I think you're wrong there because there's options online to buy the physical games with just discs. You don't have to go to stores physically anymore. But That's
there's
the
gonna be less
difference
demand.
between that and Blockbuster, between Blockbuster and Netflix. Blockbuster
There's
was
still
just a brick
going
and
to be
mortar.
less. There's still going to be less demand, Callie. There's a reason why the stats are point to right now, 80% digital, 20% physical. It's only going to get worse because people go with what's more convenient. And what's more convenient is digital. We know what's safer, what's ownership proof. Technically,
I would
even if you have
agree.
the disc, you're not the owner.
I would agree,
ahead.
but I've been seeing quite a bit of pushback online from people who want to preserve physical releases.
Again, I'm not saying it's going to die out, but it's at the point where it's not significant. There's millionaires right now that made their millions off of vinyls. But dude, can you sit there and tell me vinyl music is a significant part of music in general in terms of revenue and interest? Seriously,
I would say it's significant culturally because there's still an audience
Lord.
for vinyl.
I'm talking about money. I'm not talking about people that talk, dude. It's like talking about PlayStation exclusives are awesome, bro. We all know the top 10 games that sell on PlayStation are not the exclusives. I'm not saying no one's going to buy physical. I'm saying the numbers
I
will
can
be
see your point.
negligible.
I can see your
He's
point.
saying it's going to
total
become like just like
statistics.
vinyls. It's like vinyl is becoming like a niche thing for collectors. I think physical is what he's saying is going to go. And it really actually depends on the mentality, right? Like everyone used to buy cassette tapes and then all of a sudden people stopped and then started buying CDs because I don't know how that shift happened. And then when you bought CDs, then one day you said, okay, I'm just going to stop buying CDs because I can always burn these things in my MP3 player or my iPod or whatever.
And then
Same thing with
Spotify
movies.
came around.
Right.
Spotify came around. Now no one has discs.
And nobody
I'll tell you.
downloads for 99 cents. Yeah.
I'll tell you right now. I'll tell you right now that I 100% agree with what Loke is saying. And here's a reason why behind it. When I leave my house and I decide to grab my Steam Deck or you grab your ROG Ally or whatever, we can't count on physical.
Right.
We can't count on physical there. The only place we can count on physical is literally in front of our TV. And it's very vinyl-like experience, right? You got the actual thing, you throw it in and it feels special, but this feels special to a very niche amount of people. I mean, here's another thing. When's the last time you threw a disc in your PC?
When I played Oblivion a few months ago.
Who's complaining about that though?
No one. I don't.
Nobody's complaining about that. You got USB sticks that you can use for certain things. Other things are just a download that you need from the internet, and everyone's fine with it. Everyone's fine with it. How about what Apple did? And I'm wondering if they backtracked on it at all or not. Maybe one of you guys can tell me. They took away SD cards.
No, they brought it back in the new MacBook.
Did they? Oh,
Yes,
okay.
they
The
did.
MacBook. I'm talking about phones.
Yeah. They don't have any of those.
Did they bring it back with phones?
Yeah, those.
No.
Nope.
People complained about it. Did it matter?
No.
Nope.
So that's what I'm kind of getting at is like there can be a crowd that complaining about it, but I'm right there with Loke on this one. It's just like, sure, that crowd will fizzle, and then there'll be the remaining people standing, which are those that didn't care, and the remaining people standing is the majority.
Well,
It kind of is what it is.
The physical is just the digital is just a lot more convenient. And I think the people who do physical, like myself included, one of the main reasons I still do physical is because some of the
That's why I don't want to game share with you.
Wait,
at least until I play Baldur's Gate, and then I'll stop game sharing with you.
Oh yeah, by the way, you have to send me that link. I gotta get you that game anyway. So,
Please.
yeah. The thing that bothers me, see, I play those archaic RPGs, so they don't really they don't transfer well in the sense that like whenever there's a back compat going on or something like that, that's usually those niche RPGs are usually the last thing to get ported if they ever get ported. So that's why I like my physicals, because like that's usually those types of games that I play that never come to the next generation of that console. And that's really the only reason. But if I was only like a strictly COD player or a strictly like my kids are, they strictly play those online RPGs. Well, for them, not online RPGs, but those online multiplayer games. Yeah, for them, physical is just like they don't even know why I go out of my way to buy physical. They're like, why don't you just download it? So yeah. But anyhow, I think we're sort of getting away from the topic here regarding this console. So if this console comes out at $500 and the PS5 Pro comes out at $500, do you see it being a problem? Or do you think in the latter, do you think that Microsoft, since they knew when the PS5 Pro is coming out, they know how much the console is going to cost
I got a
them?
question to ask back to you, actually.
Okay.
Do you really think the PS5 Pro is going to be $500?
No, I think it's going to be $600. I'm almost confident it's going to be $600. I think that they're
You think
scared
it's
of that
going to
number,
be
$600.
$50 more than it is in all over the world, or do you think it's going to be $650 in other countries? Because remember, it's $550 in other countries.
No, I agree. It's going to be a minimum. I think of in the United States, there is going to be an upcharge. How much is that upcharge? I don't know. I think the minimum upcharge is going to be $50. If I was a betting man, I think it would be $600 as long as Sony is sort of okay with that $600 price, because they got burned with that $600 number. So I don't know if they're still keen on going back to that $600 number, but they have to do a minimum of $50. I think there's no way that PS5 Pro is coming out at exactly the same price as the PS5, in my opinion. But even with a $50 price difference, I mean, is it worth the incentive purchase?
I'm not sure if it's worth it for PlayStation to do it. If they're only hiking, I mean, they already talked about 500 wasn't enough for the PS5 regular. So 550 for an upgraded version for a PS5. That to me, that just doesn't make any sense.
Well,
so
I mean, as technology goes forward, like the chip,
things get cheaper. I get that.
There's a chip shortage right now. Toyota and Nissan are struggling to produce cars right now. So forget the technology. The price for the chips is going up.
No, you're getting it wrong. No. Let me fix that. There's a shortage of older chips, but newer chips, there's really no problem. Apple has released so many phones with the 3-nanometer process. So getting the most current chips is not the issue. It's getting those backdated older chips that are in cars, those Toyotas and stuff, and in fridges and stuff. That's hard to come by. Yeah. That is where the thing is, not in the new chips. So as much as you want to say, yeah, there is a chip shortage, I don't think that there is as much of a chip shortage as people make it out to be. There was, but not anymore, as much as it was. But even let's play devil's advocate here. Let's say the PlayStation bites the bullet.
I'm sending a link to the YouTube to the YouTube comment section. Check this out. It's the Intel CEO. I'm not saying your information is wrong. I'm just saying the CEOs at Intel talking about this is going to be a problem way into 2024. But okay, carry on.
Okay. So even if let's just play devil's advocate here. Let's say the PlayStation bites the bullet and releases the PS5 Pro. What do you think would be the incentive amount? Like $600? Let's just say they do $600. Do you think that the new PS5 Pro would cost $600 minimum? Yeah.
I think keep going.
You said
yeah. Okay, so guys, what do y'all think? Do you think it's going to cost $600?
I doubt it's going to be $600. I think they're going to put it at $550.
You not hear me?
Yeah.
We hear you now. Okay,
now.
You were muted, Ham. I think your mic muted you again.
No, I was just. Anyways, so no, I think it's bare minimum at $600. Just because
$700.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was $699.
And it's gonna
though.
sell. It's gonna sell
But-
like gangbusters.
Fucking crazy.
But I mean, what? I'm sorry. What was the rest of the question? You asked me how much I think it is and what.
Okay, so that thing comes out at 600. This thing comes out at 500. Is there a compelling argument to the consumer to get this box, knowing that it's just a repackaging of the original Series X console?
Okay, so I'm talking about the Series X version of
Yeah.
it now. Okay, so for the Series X, I mean, as for a consumer that's already in their ecosystem, it's not that interesting unless you need more consoles at your house. But as for, I think this is a great console. Like, I think that one is a good console for people that are not currently in the ecosystem. It's giving you plenty, or I mean, you can argue that if you want, but it's giving you a good amount of storage. It has more updated Wi-Fi, new controllers, so some sort of a new experience with it is being had for a new consumer with a refined product. This is really pretty much the same exact thing as the 360 when they came out with the revision for that. It's the same product, does the same thing, few better pieces added to it, but the game's going to play the same as your other 360. So, I mean, if we're arguing, is this bad? I don't think so, because it's PS3 did it back in the PS3 generation. In fact,
PS2 as well.
The PS. I mean, there's been many of consoles that remade or figured out another edition for it. Switch has the Switch Lite and stuff like that. Same exact thing, except a few features are a little bit different, right? And that, but that one, the features are, I don't know. It's arguable, like any of it. So you could say, oh, I can't take these controllers off of the screen. Well, for the Xbox, you can't put a disc in to that. So I mean, it's very similar, but they all play the things the same. As for the PS5, I'm more interested in what the hell they're doing with this PS5 than what they did with the Series X. Because I'm just like, yo, I can go into my closet right now and grab the box for the PS5. It says 8K 120. How the hell are they going to beat that right now?
16K.
16K 240.
Stop.
240.
They're gonna say AR ready out of the box, no VR headset required. There's your whole room.
Ray tracing.
I'm not mad. I'm not mad to hear that the PS5 Pro, whatever it is, has more features. But right now, I'm not gonna buy a PS5 Pro, buy Immortals of Avium, and expect a big difference. Because to me, it's gonna be it's gonna run pretty much the exact same. I might have a little bit more grass on the ground.
Hey, Horizon is gonna run like
time to play ball.
It'll give Aloy some personality, I guess. I don't know.
And bigger boobs. I want bigger boobs.
Jesus Christ, he's for real about that shit. But anyways,
you
I was
don't see a
disappointed with
face
the
anymore. You just see
PSVR.
the face model's gone.
But what I want to see, if they put $699, I'll tell you why I'd buy it. If they make it $700, the only way I'd buy it at that price point is if they said, yo, it's backwards compatible all the way back to the original PlayStation.
Which is
I would be like,
yo. No, they can't. They could put a PS5 Pro chip in.
You're saying they could. I'm saying they won't. I mean,
right?
And see,
I have very low. I have very low confidence. We'll see. They don't even have to do that exactly. You see what Xbox has done with some of their classic games, right? You put like Max Payne 3 is a 2-disc game, but I only need 1 disc to play the game because it just downloads it from wherever Xbox has that game saved and brings it over. All the disc is really doing is saying I have ownership of it.
Yeah.
So if the PS5 Pro can figure out a way to be like, hey, this guy put in a PS3 game and it's this one, let's download it from our servers.
Mhm.
That would be phenomenal. Same with the and even if they said this is only for licensed games, it would make sense.
Mhm.
It would
if you
100%
play-
make
Buy that
sense, and it'd be
console.
dope.
I would buy that console, man.
And if they can play, and if you can play it on the PS5 portal, oh, that's all that matters.
You can't
Oh,
play no
God.
stream things from there, man. You better hope it ain't streamed.
Yeah. it's
The
a-
PS5 portal too, you know it's happening.
Big
That's
ass
what I gotta
coaster.
say.
Damn, a
Sorry,
coaster.
I couldn't know
It's
myself.
a
I'm
giant
sorry.
hole.
Well, speaking of weird looking controllers, they did announce their new controller, and ironically enough, it does
It's
have
awesome.
what everyone thought it would. It's going to have better haptics because it's going to have to compete with the PlayStation.
Well, they copied PS5 on that shit.
Yeah, and of course they did. I mean,
Yeah.
you knew they were going to do that, right? But the thing that's interesting is everyone thought that the new haptics would first come into their new Elite Series controllers and then work its way down. But they're introducing those new haptics into their traditional base controller. And also in the leak, there is rumors of there's another, not rumors, but also in the leak, they've already financed a new Elite Series controller and a new, what did they use called? They called it a some sort of other controller. It was called a better, what's the word that they use?
A better.
Something.
Better
They had
DualSense?
no, they had they had this controller, then they said that they greenlit financially a new Elite Series controller and a more comfortable quality of life controller or something like that, and take with that what you want. I don't know what they mean by that. So usually if they're saying a more upgraded quality controller, that's usually the Elite, but they made it separate on the leak. So I don't know. But the interesting thing about this controller is that it says that it is what is the words that they use? It is direct to cloud. And when I read that, I was thinking, is that like the Stadia tech? Yeah. What do y'all think?
Sounds like the Stadia tech if it's going to be using cloud technology.
So this is what gave a lot of people a little bit of a pause, because they're like, well, if you're going to have a direct to cloud controller, then are you sort of saying that the console is no longer needed? Otherwise, why would you have a direct to cloud controller? So
Well, they've had. I mean, they have the PC. They have xCloud, which is with the phones, and they're bringing it to TV. So it's not a surprise to give players more options to not need a console, because they're basically all in on the whole ecosystem thing.
Mhm.
But seeing that they're making the console refresh, it's no call for concern like the console itself is going away, because we're giving you options to not require it. So yeah.
But in general, what do y'all think of this controller? Does it strike your fancy? And that's assuming it comes out like this. I presume it will look like this because somebody sort of designed this for these for the judge. So it's probably, if this is slated to come out by end of next year, you would presume that this is pretty much final design, because they have to be meeting all these keystones.
Figure out the two color. Are you talking about the two color approach? Because it's probably just, hey, we're gonna have a black model and a white model. I think that's what they're going for. If it does look like that, where the grips are black and the top is white,
that will look weird with two tones.
Yeah, that's weird. So I think it's just, hey, we're gonna be shipping in black and white like our current console controllers are. But I mean,
well, I don't think so, because if they made it all black or all white, then how would you know the difference between this controller and the previous one?
The box. I'm sorry.
I mean, there has to be
I
a
get what you said. I mean, probably it would be a weird design if it's a two-tone approach. But hey, they got the design lab, so whatever.
Yeah, ugly as hell right there. I don't want to see that.
Yeah, I don't want to see either. So I mean, like exactly that. The home button layout positioning looks slightly different. It looks like it's the buttons are all lined up in a row versus how it's dipped down with my controller right now. Maybe the shoulder buttons are slightly different, but I don't know. Like the idea is cool. You mentioned earlier having the haptics in the Elite series. I think this one makes more sense because if you're gonna try to push, telling how aggressive they're going to be with pushing, like having developers adopt these features, you wouldn't want them to work on it and then say only the Elite controller can use it because it's like, oh, we have a small group of people that would use it versus, hey, a new controller drop for 50, 60 with these, features, as well as, like you said, the newer consoles that are coming out there, more people will have access to it versus, hey, go buy $150 so you can have tension in the controllers when you're trying to pull a bowstring back or something like that. That'd be weird to limit it to other people. So, but I think it's cool. I said personally when the new consoles first came out, PlayStation putting something new into the controller was interesting versus Xbox playing it safe. So finally hopping on that just to give people more ways to have a better experience while they're playing the games is always a plus.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else have anything to chime in on the controller?
I'm into it. I'm into it.
I agree.
I'm pretty interested just to see what it all can do, to compare and contrast with my PS5 controller. I really enjoy my PS5 controller. I know a lot of people don't like or complain, whether it's honest complaint or not, about the noise that comes out of the PS5 controller. I personally kind of like it. I think it's a nice touch to have in games like Grand Theft Auto. When you get a phone call, it comes through that instead of the actual TV speakers and stuff like that. I think it's nice. So Xbox trying to do something new for themselves.
Well, the Wii remote touch. Because the Wii remote had a speaker in the
all the way back in Smash Bros. For all the characters.
Wow, I completely forgot about that speaker in that thing.
You said that there was a game where the phone rang and you had to pick it up and the whole thing, just like that. But yeah, it's kind of funny. Everybody copies everybody.
My whole thing is, if you're gonna make this type of controller and have all this extra stuff with it, please support it. Because in my opinion, PlayStation 5 has made an amazing controller, but there's like a handful of games that really bring it out. And it kind of stinks. Like when I got the new God of War, I was disappointed how little the DualSense really stepped up. Like I was thinking, man,
I think after the issue with that is they can't really force developers to use the.
But that's a first
but
party.
It's a first party.
I feel like you would
exactly. If PlayStation fans are going to give the smoke to Xbox and say, yo, y'all need to figure out your tools, well, it's the same thing the other way around, too. It's like, yo, you introduce
they'll have specific developers working for, like, the tech that they make, like, especially, like, for, was it Firesprite that worked on the haptics for the VR controllers.
Well, so, the thing
is this. All the developers to just, like, use this tech.
Well, it's number one. It's Sony Santa Monica. The developer has their name in the freaking developer group. Okay. Second of all, Astro's Playroom, when it came out, when PS5 was first launched, everyone just went crazy over Astro's Playroom and its use of haptics.
I think 25% of Astro's Playroom's wow effect was the controller.
I think the issue here is it's just like once this tech comes out, yeah, it's cool at first, but then like the honeymoon phase just kind of wears off, and everyone just
I don't buy that. I don't.
Remember, Nintendo was like practically the first one to incorporate this tech in their controller. Remember that little demo that they did with the ice cubes?
Yeah, but
yeah,
they're still using it though. I mean, every game that Nintendo has released up to now, even Tears of the Kingdom, uses it very well, actually. And throwing
Cappy and whatnot. That shit was that shit's pretty tough. Like, sure, I don't want to use it for every single game that it's available for, but the fact that they supported it with this game and said, yo, if you want to be a little extra, go on ahead and have at it. I'm not seeing that with the PS5 controller. It's so capable of all this stuff that's pretty dope. I like when I turn on Spider-Man, the best I get out of that controller is the sound of my web spitting. Like, it's just like, what is this? But then again, I'm really hoping that maybe Insomniac, because you got to remember, Miles Morales came out, and then Ratchet and Clank came out, and Ratchet and Clank played more with the controller than Miles Morales did. So I'm hoping maybe in this Spider-Man coming up, maybe there'll be something a little bit cooler than a little bit of tension and a spit of a web coming out of your controller.
And the funny thing about the DualSense is, up to this generation, I've always preferred the Xbox controller in my hands better than the PlayStation DualShocks and stuff. The PlayStation DualShocks were just for my birthing hands, really small. And I enjoyed the size of the Xbox controllers in comparison. In this generation,
girth.
I like them big booty girls. What can I say? Fat bottom girls, they make the world go around, maybe. That's
at least you're honest.
Yeah.
This man a Duke.
I was the only motherfucker who liked the Duke. I actually liked the Duke. I
still got a Duke. I love it.
I even bought the new re-releases when they came out.
Oh, the green one?
Yeah, with a digital screen and everything. In the
has that little digital, like when you turn on the console and stuff. Yeah,
exactly. I like that size. And this generation it got flipped, right? The DualSense got bigger, and the Xbox controller got smaller. So I'm hoping with this new revision of the controller, they do make it a little bit bigger. I mean, not too much bigger, but just sort of make it the same sort of dimensions.
I want it thicker than a Snicker.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
I want them thick I want them so thick that when they slap it starts jiggling. So yeah. Anyhow,
I think this is becoming the sexual podcast now.
I don't know, man. If it's jiggling, that means she doesn't squat. I don't think that's a good idea.
It's got to be jammed, and jelly don't shake like that. I'm sorry.
What? Oh my god.
I'm frustrated.
I love this podcast.
They keep overlooking one of the things that I keep desiring in it is the adjustable thumbstick tensions, and they keep skipping over that. And the only ones that do it are the Elite controllers, and that's one thing I would like to see, because that's actually a functional one that works with the games, but especially the ones I play. But maybe it's because I destroy every controller I own, and I need something to help me. But that's just me.
All right. Well. Anyone else have anything to say about the controller or the consoles coming out, and anything regarding that before we move on to the next thing that was mentioned?
Yeah, Microsoft's design person, they're looking at those little shapes games that you played as a toddler, and they're just designing the Xbox out there, every shape. So we're going to get it printed next.
What was that game a long time ago? You put these little shapes in these little holes, and you only got like 60 seconds before they popped up and they scattered.
Scared the crap out of you.
Yeah, concentration, wasn't it? Wasn't it called concentration or some shit like that?
I know what game you're referencing. I don't remember the name.
Yeah. This was pre-Nintendo, guys. Okay, I was like what, 3 or 4 or some crap like that. That was just pre-Nintendo.
No,
okay?
you were 24 pre-Nintendo. Be honest. All right,
hey,
we don't age shame.
We're talking to. Come on, Jesus.
Hey, okay, look. You know what I'm saying? I look good for my age. Not for anyone else's age, but looking for my age.
Yeah.
Right. All right.
For beauty, man.
Okay, moving on. All right. Anyone else have anything to say regarding?
No.
Stop using my catchphrase. This guy.
All right. Okay. And so, my one thing that was mentioned in some of the emails that were being passed was Phil's response to that big old gap that happened last year. And I think that this is Microsoft's biggest problem. I think they got a really good controller, even though I still think the DualSense is a little bit more comfortable. I think they got a really good console. I think their console is very powerful. And I think they got a really good infrastructure. but they're still missing the regular cadence. So, like as Ham was saying, the year prior we had Halo Infinite, we had Psychonauts, we had several others, Horizon, Forza Horizon, all that stuff. Now, were all the games for Forza Horizon? We had what was that? Flight Simulator come out as well, and I think there was another game.
Back for Blood? Don't. No, I'm joking. They reference Back for Blood.
Well, I mean, there was like Now, was every game for every gamer at that time? No, but they kept a regular.
But there were bangers.
Going. There were bangers to whoever was in that genre, whoever liked the game. They enjoyed that game and they enjoyed their experience, right? Say what you will about Halo Infinite, but it was a big game. It was it wasn't unplayable. It was a good game for what it was. Was it to the pedigree of the other Halos? That's up to debate, but it was a good game. And
it objectively was above the previous ones. It wasn't well maintained. Mm-hmm. But if anyone has any time here to go and check the launch numbers, there's no other Halo game that's better than Infinite. Launch
can't really look. Yeah, I can't look at launch numbers when you're talking about the space in which we have Game Pass available, and launch numbers isn't something to really go by with that in the spin. But yeah, no, I'm not.
So
saying
we're going to penalize Halo because it didn't come out in 2007.
No, I just can't say like, oh yeah, Infinite did bad.
Well,
look at all the factors that got into it, but anyway,
it did.
Yeah, and I'm saying.
I mean, Starfield has more players than Skyrim had in 2 weeks. That is an objective fact. Just because you can't quantify what Skyrim had 2 weeks after it came out is not Starfield's fault.
But I mean. Go ahead.
I don't want to spin off into a Halo conversation.
No. But what I'm trying to say is that like the year prior, we had a steady cadence. We had something there for somebody, right? Then the year after that, you got Redfall, which was delayed, which one could argue should have been delayed again. There was the Starfield delay, and there was really nothing there. I mean, there were these smaller little side projects like Pentiment and I think what was that? Grounded went left beta.
Release, I think.
Yeah, they had their official release at that time as well, right? They came out of beta or anything like that. But none of those games were supposed to be like their tent poles, And Phil was complaining about that. And he said that, we can't afford to do this. This is not a good move, and he wanted to learn and do this.
He said was disappointed in the release window and how the drought was the way it was. So something along those lines is what he said.
Yeah, he said that this is a real disaster situation for us, given all that we have invested in content across studios at our GP Content Fund. We need to learn from this and build a plan forward. So that was his exact words from the tweet or from the email. Now, the thing is this, right? You can have the best controller, the best console, the best infrastructure, but at the end of the day, I can't play just with the controller. I mean, it's like I could, but I'm like what the hell am I doing? And you can't play the infrastructure. You can't play the console without the key pillar, which is games. And I think that is the biggest problem. We've not, as David said earlier on the show, they're not seeing growth in Game Pass numbers, mainly because I think that people are waiting for that steady cadence of games. And so it's nice to see that Phil acknowledging this. For whatever reason, he might have acknowledged it, but so he mentioned that that they need to be doing better, and I think that is their biggest hurdle right now. I think that is what's really preventing them from rising up the ranks, is the fact that they don't have a steady cadence. Now, that being said, does that steady cadence mean that every game has to be a AAA banger? No, but they need a steady cadence of AAA per year, because that's what we're looking for. So last year was just pathetically bad. So, anybody have anything to say about this? Do y'all
I have a
like the
question
fact
for you,
that?
Wise.
Yes.
Or for anyone else on the panel. If we take these emails or that one specifically at face value, does that mean in 2024? Because I mean, even the staunchest Xbox hater has to say this year has been stellar for Xbox.
Yes.
Yeah.
If we say, let's say Xbox maintains this momentum throughout 2024, does that mean that they're done? They're good? Or do they need to do it for 5 years, for 10 years?
In order to like get things to shift in their favor, for people to change the conversation,
because from Wise's question, it's last year was bad, but the year before was good. When they have the steady cadence, is 2 years, 2 consecutive years proof that they've surpassed their limits and they're good? Or do they have to do it for 5 years, for 10 years, for 20 years?
I don't
When
think
is
they
it
need
good enough?
Well, if you're asking me, a steady cadence means that it has to have some sort of regularity. And regularity means that it can't just happen in 1 year and not the next year. It means it has to happen in successive years. So you're looking at a minimum of 3 to 5 years, I would say, yes. To say
They
now
have to do it for 5 years.
Yes. To call it a trend, to call it something that is a trend, yeah.
So I would say let's put an exact number on it because I don't remember all the amount of games they released in between. So Microsoft said they would like to have a game a quarter. And if they were able to keep that going, would you say, okay, now they're keeping their cadence, or they got to do more than 4 games a year for first party specifically, second party, third party, etc.? That's a conversation. But for you, would you say 4 is a solid number, or you need to bump those numbers up?
Oh, who are you asking? Are you asking?
I'm both of you guys. Yeah, you and Loxus.
I'd be good with per half, honestly, not per quarter. For me, if they gave me 2 Starfield level games per year, I'm good. I feel inundated this year. I feel suffocated with the amount of games that have like great, not good. Because I think a lot of people throw the word great around a lot. They kind of removed the value from it. This year, legit, we've got at least 10 great games. I'm good. If Xbox gives me 2, PlayStation gives me 2, I'm all right. Because third party is killing it most of the time. So I don't need Xbox to continue to do what they're doing. There's a lot of people that saying that PlayStation have been below par this year. I'm satisfied with what PlayStation has given me. I'm not satisfied with what Xbox gave me because it's been too much this year.
Well, if you're asking me, if you look at the size of these games and the games that are just and the quality that they're coming out at, it is, I think, a lot for us and very selfish for us as gamers to expect that there should be 4 games of that caliber every year.
Yes.
I think 2 was a fair, because these are humans that are doing this, right? They're people who are putting, sacrificing family time, sacrificing personal time to do this. Yeah, they're being paid, but still work is work. So 2 is a decent number. And I think that's all they should do. Now, 2 big games of the level
2 big games.
Right. Of the level of like, say, Spider-Man 2 or something like that, right? But then like games like you got Pentiment, or you've got like your little other small little things that come in, your little, what they used to call passion projects, those that
Hi-Fi Rush.
Hi-Fi Rush is another good one. It came in, it did what it needed to do, and it left. It did not overstay its welcome. And I like those types of games because as we need palate cleansers as gamers. We can't sit there and go from one 40, 50-hour AAA banger to another 40, 50-hour AAA.
Yeah. And then another one.
I am struggling with Cyberpunk and Starfield. I'm just like, I can't. I just...
Yeah. The Order 1886, one of the most shit on games.
I liked it. It was 10 hours.
More games like that.
It was just the price point. It was the Order $18.86 was a good price point.
Yeah.
I had to bring that up.
I am not a little kid who's going to school. I am a father. I am a teacher. I am a husband. I have other responsibilities. I can't sit there and play 50-hour games all the time. I don't have
You're
the
also a
time.
content creator now, so
I am also a
you have
content
less
creator.
hours. You
Exactly.
have less hours to play games.
And
luck.
my hat's off to you, Loke, Doom, all of you guys doing this, because once I put my hat in the ring with this stuff, man, this stuff you think is just hitting the start stream button, but there's a whole lot of paperwork on the back end of this stuff. So respect to anyone doing this, dude. I mean, I swear to you, God. But yeah, I mean, 10-hour games are good enough for me, and 10, 12 hours, and that, you're good. So, but I think that. And I think I don't even think that Xbox needs to release games, AAA games, even of the caliber that PlayStation's at. Where even if PlayStation hits every game that they come out at above 90, and Xbox every AAA major game that comes out is in the 80s, I think that in addition to being day and date on Game Pass, in addition to getting other games of smaller nature, filling out that little collection plus third party coming in, I think that would do whatever Xbox wants their numbers for Game Pass to do, as long as they are consistent. But the key word is consistency. You can't have a year like last year where you did diddly squat. So, and that's what I think burned a lot of people. That's why I think that Game Pass stagnated at 30 million. So.
Wize, I wanna respond to your comment that you just threw out there about ratings on Metacritic. And I want to make a confession at the same time. I don't really care about Metacritic. Right now, I'm playing WRC Generations. I don't know how many hours I've put into it. I'm kind of embarrassed to even check because it's a lot. This game is sitting at 74 on Metacritic. I understand that it's part of our console cycle. Our creator cycle, right? Mm-hmm. Metrics, you need to have some way to quantify. But for me personally, don't even care about Metacritic. Horizon, Forbidden West, Zero Dawn, whatever, I'm sure they have 90 scores. But I would rather play WRC 1,000 times before I even touch Horizon. So I just wanted to add that this little tiny response to your remark regarding, they don't have to do it like PlayStation and get 90s. You know what? What they need to do is give us games like Vampire Survivor. They need to give us games that we can't stop playing. Give us games like Starfield that we can't stop playing. I don't care about Metacritic. Metacritic says the WRC Generations is a shit game. Fuck Metacritic. Sorry, that's all I want to say.
Well, same thing with Sea of Stars. Sea of Stars got like I think 70s for Metacritic, but I think it's as good as Chrono Trigger. I mean, I would say it's as good, but close to it.
Sea of Stars, I thought I got the 96. Yes. Hold on a second.
Sorry to interrupt you, but I need to go.
Okay, Callie, thank you for coming in.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah,
Callie,
thank you for having me on, my man. Sorry I couldn't be on a little bit longer. Next time, though.
Before you leave, do you have anything to say regarding the Phil Spencer tweet, basically? Regarding
let him plug his channel. Come on, bro.
Well, plug your channel. I'm going to plug his channel anyway. So,
which tweet regarding?
Well, the fact that he realized that he said basically that it was not a good idea for them to go a whole year and the openness. Do you think that was a fair statement for him, or do you think that he was sort of trying to just play devil's advocate here? Or
I think that was a fair statement, to be honest. I don't see anything wrong with it, but
and do you think that's their main problem? Do you think that if Phil Spencer, if they find a way of sort of plugging, if they were able to release it at a regular pace, do you think that would go? That's their biggest problem, or do you think that there's just?
Well, I think that's what their goal is for. Right. I think that's what their goal has been for quite a while now, since they got Bethesda. And I think they've just been trying to live up to that goal that they set for themselves.
Okay. All right. Well, tell us where we can find you and tell us about your channel, etc.
Well, you guys can actually find me on my own channel, Calrix01, and I do a new show, Gamer Couch Club, where I will be having Wize on in the future, hopefully.
Mhm.
And I will be having K-Meg on hopefully this Saturday if he's able to commit. But-
Messi.
Yeah, I know. But yeah. And you guys can also find me on my Twitch. I will be streaming there soon after I'm finish off my playthrough of Web of Shadows, actually. So, and you guys can also find me on my Twitter handle, Calrex1, my backup Twitter handle, Calrex011, and that's about it.
Well, thank you for being on, and yeah, check him out. And of course, his all of his stuff will be found in the description of the video of this podcast as well.
Also, Triple, Destiny sucks. Bye.
Damn.
All right.
The balls and left.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Well,
Someone
trust
get an
me,
ice pack for Triple.
no.
Get an ice
Triple knows where he lives, so trust me, I know it's cool.
Oh.
So.
All right.
All right.
Another dead dinosaur.
Well. Oh well. Okay, so the next thing, they're planning on releasing a next-gen Xbox console in 2028. No shit. Okay. Anybody else anything to say with this? Nobody cares.
Are we talking about Brooklyn?
No, they're next gen. That they are also already committed into next gen beyond Brooklyn, and they've said last year that this coming.
I
out
find
in
that
2028.
hilarious. I find it hilarious because the same people that will point out that they might close in 2027 or they're going to close in 2027 will ignore the part of the leaks that said that they already committed to a console.
No, but the people who said they are the ones who said they may close in 2027. We didn't say it. They said it in this.
I know. What I'm saying is, I find it hilarious because most people don't do what David brought up, which is talk about both sides of what was stated. Most people will pick, the new console is definitely coming out in 2028, so there's nothing to worry about, or they will just focus on, no, the Xbox is dead in 2027. Do you understand?
Yes.
So that's why I find this hilarious.
If anyone has the
console, I'm obviously going to get it.
The date. When was the statement of leaving the console space? When was that email sent out? Versus if the email also of a console in 2028 was sent out? Because if there's like a year and change and something's changed,
that's a good question.
Let me look it up. Hold on. Let me check and find out when.
Well, while we're here, I'm gonna give a mini review of WC Generations.
Oh God!
The brakes
sponsored
on
by
this thing are amazing. Haptics are very nice. Like, if you guys remember, I remember saying a couple of times that the haptic feedback is like a gimmick, but on WRC they actually baked it into the game. Your acceleration and braking, depending on how damaged your car is, your braking and accelerating can actually you can feel the difference on how much effort. So when your car is in perfect condition, just lightly pressing it will get you a good response. But as it gets damaged, and if you don't repair it when you're doing pit stops and whatever, you can get harder and harder to brake or accelerate.
Okay, so the tweet was last year, around I think May or June of last year, and it says that they were internally projecting in Microsoft that they're going to hit 100 million Game Pass subscribers by 2029 and 2030. And Phil was trying to be more optimistic and said that it would take them till 2029 and 2030 to hit 100 million, they would be leaving. He doesn't think they would still be in the game business, and that those numbers of 100 million need to be achieved by 2026 or 2027. So
you know what? If the idea is 100 million, right? Just shut up shop right now.
100 million. That's like, wow. That's like if you
That's
take the PlayStation count and the PlayStation Plus and the Xbox subscriber count and the Nintendo Switch Online. I think if you add them up together, I
It's
still
still
don't think
not
it's
enough.
100 million.
It's
Yeah.
PlayStation has an install base
See,
above 100, and they can't get 100 million people to
See, what-
subscribe to their subscription.
what they're banking on is clearly mobile.
Yes.
Mobile is 100% what they're
Okay.
banking on with that
Okay, that'll
100,000.
change everything.
And to me,
100
that
million,
is
100 million.
Oh yeah, 100 million. I'm sorry. That to me, that's clearly what they're going after right now. And
Activision and King.
Exactly. So I mean, that will bring them that exact thing. Could you imagine? Call of Duty Mobile, get all this free shit through Game Pass. Mobile, and there's already a crazy
Candy
amount
Crush.
of players. There's a crazy
Candy
competition.
Crush, you get more lives.
I don't know how many wives or spouses are playing Candy Crush, but that game is crazy. Could you imagine how many returns or how many things you can get? Like just stay with this with us on Game Pass, and we'll give you X amount a month.
Yeah, because
more
currently
than
I think
it.
Google Play has like a subscription service for some of their games. You get like what bonus things for some of the games in their catalog. So same thing happening with Game Pass wouldn't be too surprising.
Apple Arcade
too. Yeah.
Well,
damn, I didn't think about mobile. Ham, that's a good catch.
I mean, yeah, because it's the console space. Someone said before, like the console space has basically been tapped out in terms of you hit the ceiling of who will adapt to it. So having Game Pass on console, on PC, on mobile as well, you're increasing the chances.
I think they said that the top end of console is 200 million. I think that's like the extent of console, and beyond that has to be mobile. So yeah, I mean, if you look at it, no console has gone beyond 200 million and gone beyond I think 150 or 160.
Yeah, the only thing I will say, let's say do another price model of sorts, like a new Game Pass subscription tier. Because to use the cloud portion, you have to get Ultimate. It's like $15, what's going on 16 with the price increase. So having that mobile user dedicate $15, $16 a month, I'll be interested if they do something like that. But who knows? The amount of money people spend on mobile games already shouldn't be too surprising. So, but
I think what's going to happen is what they're going to look at. They're going to, like right now, Xbox you can play a Assassin's Creed Mirage on the new iPhone. That's a console level game. You can play. I mean it's crazy. It's a mobile chip. It's an ARM chip, and you can play this full Mirage game. And there's another one. What was that other game that's being ported there too? Resident Evil 8 Village. You can play it on that. So and then of course we know that Xbox and Nintendo are sort of buddy because they know they offered the Call of Duty franchise for 10 years to the next Nintendo console. So what I think their plan is in the short term is to have these hardwares and stuff, but in the long term, I think that is their goal is to sort of get out of the console space where they're making a dedicated hardware, or if they do have hardware, it's more going to be for a niche audience, but have that Game Pass app on everything. And therefore, have their numbers grow, because with the Game Pass app, you can get your mobile games, plus you can get your console level games like Mirage and all that other stuff, which can now be played locally on phones of all things. And that's just bananas for me to say. But yeah.
Ham, it's not even because we share a channel, bro. God damn. And my mind is still exploding right now.
It's like, damn,
100 million
untapped market.
Dude, 100 million is like the floor. They did a study, and of the 7 billion people that existed on the planet in 2020, 5 billion played games on their phone.
That's what Microsoft constantly kept saying. The Netflix of gaming and trying to reach all 2 billion players, and people kept saying, "Oh, he's
look."
nonsense.
Do you know how many phones there are? I mean, do you know how many people there are on the planet?
Well, until 2020, there was 7 billion. I don't know about now.
Okay. Do you know how many phones there are on the planet?
Too many.
I'm guessing at least 14.
It's 2 phones per person if you average it out.
Yeah,
It's
at least
14
14
billion phones out there. 14 billion phones. Now, if you want to know something, there are beggars that have iPhones, okay? And I know if I drive by them all the time. I mean, they're sitting there, holding a sign, but also surfing or doom scrolling Instagram or whatever the hell they're doom scrolling,
Yep.
So yeah, that makes sense. Why wouldn't you want to? Yeah, and think about it: 14 billion phones. Even if you get like 0.5%,
Bro,
0.5%,
100
you're
million
there.
is the floor. It's the floor. It's not even the top of what they could do.
Right.
Jeez.
Right. But the problem is that like when you're talking about mobile games, there's those mobile games like Candy Crush, which gamers like us abhor, and then there are games that we like that the mobile gamers abhor. So yeah, I mean, my wife will play Candy Crush all the time, but she will never play Baldur's Gate 3. So yeah.
But let me tell you, you know why my mind exploded so much? Not just the quantity, right? I've recently been dabbling with Netflix gaming, and it's not bad, especially in terms of variety. It's really not bad. So I'm sitting here thinking Game Pass could realistically, especially if phones, if the iPhone 15 becomes the base of what happens in mobile, it's realistic to say that 50% of the games on Game Pass and PS Plus will be able to play natively on iPhone and the Samsung, the Android phones.
Mm-hmm.
It's realistic to say that in 2 years, that's going to be the reality. Because one of my main problems with mobile gaming was exactly what you're talking about, Wize. Most mobile games, they have to be kind of light.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not good for guys like us. But now when you sit there and you're like, they have the light games, and now mobile can also handle AAA.
Mm-hmm.
It's over. Game Pass can legitimately be like, we are now on phones.
Well, why do you think that PlayStation is going in and revisiting their whole cloud infrastructure? They know, these companies know this
They can see
technology
it.
well
It's
in
coming.
advance. Yes.
It's coming.
Which is
So
why
even
I've
us
always
bitching
just-
about the Brooklyn,
Yeah.
even us bitching about the Brooklyn is like, dude, just accept reality, bro.
Mhm.
It's already happened.
Yeah, and that's why, at least not to make it a PlayStation topic, that's why I'm so surprised that PlayStation's still hesitant. Or maybe they just don't have the infrastructure to just have PS Now on mobile devices. Like even with the Q Lite that they're pushing, like it's like no, it's on PC, it's on console, but you can't just get a PlayStation subscription and say the whole PlayStation catalog on my phone. Like I'm still baffled by that.
To piggyback off of your idea, Apple hates Microsoft. They're competing with Microsoft. How about Apple sits down with Sony? Let's do a deal. Let's do a deal. Next thing you know, Sony games day one on PlayStation, day one on Macs, day one on iPhones.
I think
and iPads.
I think that Apple would first go to Nintendo first before they
Didn't
go
we
to Sony.
just say that Nintendo is off limits for
Remember
America?
Super Mario Run? Super Mario Run was one of Nintendo's first mobile games, and they brought it to the iPhone first, and they even had Shigeru Miyamoto come in and show it on the Apple keynote. So yeah, whereas Nintendo may not take Microsoft seriously, they most definitely take Apple seriously. Yes. So and those
and
games,
Apple.
yeah.
Oof.
Can you imagine? And then
what a partnership!
And then think about playing it on your Vision Pro. Like if they make that hardware a little bit cheaper, so it's more mass market appealable, and you can play like Super Mario Wonder or Tears of the Kingdom on a 100-inch virtual screen. It's over. It's freaking over.
That'd be wild.
it's over. It's over. Yeah, I mean, that's why I think that Microsoft sees the writing on the wall. That's why they are courageous enough to release their mid-gen refresh without a hard drive. They're like, you know what? This is more and more going to be the need for a disk drive is going to be less and less because you can just download it to your phone or whatever like that. So,
it's just like you had brought up earlier, like the difference. It was you said 80% of people are all digital these days, so it's been heading in that direction for a long time now.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, and it's only going to get worse. It feels like Microsoft with their new console. They're like that meme of that dude who's like, "Why are you people booing me? I'm right." Essentially, that's what it is. It's like, yeah, you guys are booing and talking all this crap, but time will prove us right. Not just Microsoft, but Sony as well.
Well, Microsoft has always been guilty of being a little bit ahead of the curve, right? Remember, like when the Xbox One was launched, right? Not all that TV stuff, but all that other stuff that they were talking about, like all digital and this and this and this and all of that stuff. You can't take it with you.
If you want a console that plays offline,
right?
You can play the 360.
Xbox
We were like, bro, what?
We got a console for you.
Well, good luck trying to play the PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series X online because
with
you
no internet.
Exactly.
Good luck with that.
Exactly. So that which was hated on one generator a couple of years ago.
Poor Don Matrick, guys.
Yeah. Ahead of his curve. Visionary. Don Matrick was a visionary for Xbox.
Yep.
Yeah, that's it.
The lesson is don't be first. Sorry.
All right. So anyhow, anyone else have anything to say about this whole leak thing?
Ham's be quiet.
Yeah, Ham, anything? You have anything to add?
Not in particular, to be honest. Yeah, no.
I mean, yeah, it's
well.
The only thing I gotta say, and it's more like a nitpick to seeing the conversations around it. Like, why are people surprised Phil was saying they had a bad year? I was like, isn't that what most of the industry would say? And they're like, oh my god, the leader said it. Like, I mean, he just said whatever. What else said? What's the shock?
He said here? What?
When Phil was saying that they had the bad year, when they had the drought that year, and
Captain Obvious, yeah,
and people were, the way people were reading about it and writing about it, I'm like that he's just it leaked out that he was basically disagreeing with the industry. So I don't really understand the ORG.
And see, I don't know. Like, this is the thing that really kind of sort of upsets me about Twitter and people in general, right? They make a big deal out of nothing, really, because Xbox had a bad year, that's fine, but the year before PlayStation had a bad year and nobody said shit. So like, it is what it is. These are programs programmed by human people who are susceptible to life. And yes, well, whatever, right? Things happen, and to blame, shit happens, dude. Shit happens, and like,
sometimes there's no inspiration as well.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
Things move slower.
Yeah, nobody pats 1,000.
Yeah,
well, I mean, well, speaking of,
not unless you bury Bonds. I mean, jeez.
Yeah, and then you're juicing.
Okay, so I got two small topics.
Matter.
I got two small topics, and I'll promise I'll let you guys go. Ben Studios, they sent out a tweet saying something to the effect of a new a new siphon filter, apparently. It says they sent out a tweet on Twitter, and it's let me pull it up here. It says, "We have a scheduled maintenance plan today. Players must siphon their filter. You will experience absolutely no issues during this time as this is completely made up. Thank you for your support." Really early April Fool's Day joke or something a little bit more involved?
Wrong year?
Hey, you must siphon the filter.
Really fucking early April Fool's Day? Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Next year, guys. Oh, okay.
Sounds like somebody was bored at the studio and just like threw it out there just to play games with people.
We know they're not working. They're not working on the on what was that game they had for the PS4 that didn't do so well? with the motorcycle guy.
I'm like,
Days
Damn,
Gone?
Days Gone. That is
Days Gone, which-
embarrassing.
For some reason I wanted to
Motorcycle
say Dad something, but I was like, it's not.
Oh
Well,
Lord. The
which
fact
wasn't a
that we
bad
struggled
game.
to find it. No. It is a reflection of said game. The fact that we're struggling to find its name. All right. There was like 10 solid seconds on this podcast and nothing. Anyway.
Well, this brings
Carry
up a
on.
good point, right? Like couldn't think of Days Gone, but like if you think about it, and this is going to rub people the wrong way, but you look at Days Gone and you look at Ghost of Tsushima, you look at God of War, you look at what was that game called? Spider-Man, you look at Miles Morales, whatever.
Did you just pretend to forget Spider-Man? The fuck out
Spider-Man,
of
Miles
here.
I mean, I'm trying to think in Insomniacs of, but
No,
you know the problem.
you think you're entertaining. That was not entertaining.
Oh,
No,
Christ.
so
I'm
what's
the,
the
I'm
game?
the
What's that?
only
Scooter?
I'm the
Yeah.
only asshole on this podcast drinking. Okay, well, me.
You're
and
the
Darth-
only
Darth-
asshole, period.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's true, but that's a different story. Me and Darth are the only motherfuckers drinking here, and he went quiet. So he's not said a word for the
Darth
past
is
half a fucking
freaking
hour.
wasted.
That's what I'm saying. You know,
Wasted
like,
with
yeah.
Darth. That's the name of the show.
The shit. If I knew that he couldn't handle his fire water, I would have told him to sit his ass down, and not get the beer. But unfortunately, there you go. So
Everybody
there you
was
go.
busy talking. I don't like it.
Sorry.
about that.
What the fuck did that ever stop you? Shit.
I don't know.
I mean,
was in-
Jesus Christ. Like what now all of a sudden
Anyway.
when you get drunk you want to be polite? Most people get rude when they get drunk, you
I
know?
wasn't inspired. How about that?
More like
Need some
more like it.
inspiration.
Oh yeah.
more like perspired, but anyhow. But yeah.
Okay.
So the reason I'm bringing this thing up is because like if you look at all those games and Death Stranding as well, it seems like it's the same formula. The story is different, but it's
Let me stop
that-
you right there. Let me
Oh,
stop
you
you
know
right
where
there.
I'm going with it?
Nintendo has the same formula for their style of games. You can see a Nintendo game from a mile away. You can see it from 10 clicks away. Oh,
that's
a
an
Nintendo
artistic
game.
choice. That's an artistic
And
choice.
that shit works. Nintendo is number one in the industry.
Wait a
Alright?
second. You mean Splatoon is the same as Mario? Get the hell out of here. What are you talking about?
Dude, when
How is
Okay, let me
Splatoon the
pause.
same as Mario?
Let me pause this thing.
Oh no.
Wize.
Yeah, no. Yes, I'm
Wize.
curious.
Wize,
Yes.
look at me. Look at me. Look at me.
I'm
I'm the
looking at
host
you.
now.
Oh no, let me blow you up. Okay? I know that.
I'm the host now.
No, let me do you even one better.
This is wasted with Loke now. All right.
Okay, I'm gonna make you big now. There you
Or
go.
better yet, it's laced with Loke.
Okay.
When we say these games look the same, we're not talking about us. We're talking about the majority of people. All right. You and me can look at Mortal Kombat, Killer Instinct, and say those are very different games. Me and you. You and me. Everyone here on this podcast. We can tell. Most people that dabble in gaming, the people that make up the 95% of the gaming community, will look at Killer Instinct, they will look at Mortal Kombat, and some of them will say it's the exact same game, just different characters. All right? Splatoon and Mario, yeah, I can find you Mario games that if you put them right next to Splatoon and then present it to most people that play video games, they'll say it's the same. It's the same style. You can say it can easily say this is one game, that's the sequel. That's when I say that you can see a Nintendo game from a mile away, that's exactly what I'm talking about. And you walked into the trap when you compared Splatoon and Mario because you're talking about yourself. I'm talking about the majority of people. And as far as the PlayStation exclusive style, yes, dude, you can definitely compare and say that they look the same. And that's not a bad thing. It's really not. You can just look at the amount of people that are on PlayStation right now. Look at the amount of people that are on Nintendo right now. There's nothing wrong with having a general aesthetic feel for your exclusives. But finish off your question.
Well, the reason I'm bringing this up is because this week Jaffe in his podcast, and of course, his pedigree. He said that it was in reference to Spider-Man 2 coming out, and he said maybe there is a little bit of fatigue set in because we're coming out. I mean, Spider-Man 2 is coming out in less than 2 weeks now, right? 2-3 weeks? How many weeks is it? Isn't it? When is Spider-Man 2 coming out? This the 6th of October, right?
I have no idea.
I don't have
October 20th.
October 20th. So we're less than a month.
It's coming
away.
out 3 days before Metal Gear. That's all I know.
Oh fucking now! I knew this. I was just waiting for him to bring out Metal Gear some fucking way in this. I was like, oh my god! You know what? All seriousness, all bullshit aside, I was thinking about not even talking about this topic because I said, you know what? It's 7:30. He's not mentioned Metal Gear. We're gonna end the fucking show, and it's gonna be one fucking show without Metal Gear mentioned. And then my ass said, no, let me go ahead and talk about this topic. And I fucking poked the goddamn bear.
Right.
What the hell, man? Shit.
Yeah.
This is why y'all
thou fucketh around, thou findeth out.
Yes.
All right.
Why? You're the one that keeps inviting his ass. I mean, Jesus, man.
You know what, Darth? I do not appreciate you pointing out the solution for Wize's problem. I don't appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right.
No.
Just watch him flail.
He won't remember.
Just watch him flail around. All right, and then we'll do this all over again next weekend.
Then I was flailing around 15 minutes before the freaking show. Like everyone's like, "Oh yeah, I'm not coming. I'm not feeling good." I'm like, "Oh fuck! Now what do I do?" So I was like, "Please help!" So
wait, I'm only here because. Okay, you know what? Just finish off the damn show.
You know what? I fucking love you, man. I love you and your fucking tie. And I love and I love your freaking OnlyFans that I'm the only member of. So yeah, man, you got to see.
I appreciate your $10 a month.
Hey, when those tits go flapping, I go yapping. So there you go. Sorry.
Let's get to the topic.
Okay, so Jaffe was like, okay, so maybe he was concerned that there is not that much of a buzz around this game as it was with and true enough, I don't. Maybe the marketing is not really kicked in yet or whatever, but there's a palpable quietness pre-launch of this game that wasn't there with Miles Morales, that wasn't there with Spider-Man, the original one, because
it's called Starfield.
It's
suck the air out of the room.
Do y'all think there's a fatigue? He's saying that he's himself is fatigued with that formula. Do you think that gamers are getting fatigued with that formula?
I don't know. I mean, I'm gonna have to see the sales numbers. Probably won't be the best accurate, but Resident Evil remake that came out, of course, it's Resident Evil remake, so does that apply to everything? But people are excited for Mirage, and that's a third-person action adventure game. Spider-Man being Spider-Man, people are going to be excited into that one. So I don't know if there's a fatigue for it. People are still buying them.
But there's no real buzz for Mirage. I mean, you could say the same amount of buzz. There might be maybe one standard deviation above a buzz for Spider-Man compared to Mirage. And it's not much more beyond that, and that's not a good sign, is it? Mirage has very little buzz right now. I mean, obviously, maybe the advertisement campaign has not kicked in yet, and then you got Spider-Man, which is equally as quiet, maybe a little bit more buzz because it is the brand Spider-Man and it is Insomniac, but not much more buzz. So yeah, fatigue. Do you think? What about you, Darth? Fatigue or? Just
I don't know.
Things have not really started.
It may be a little fatigue. I think it's more the play style of the game, not necessarily that the game's bad or anything. It could be people are getting a little old of the same that same Spider-Man / Arkham style of play. I mean, it's the big sandbox. You do everything. It's probably be a great game. And there are going to be plenty of people that like it. But yeah, I couldn't even begin to fathom how it's going to sell. And how people are going to take it. I'm assuming it'll do good, but I don't know. Yeah.
Well, I mean, a month before God of War 2 came out, there was a huge presence of that game, and people were talking about how these things were oversold, how the controller was oversold at that time or something like that. I don't know what it was, but Spider-Man, which unequivocally is a bigger franchise and license
Oh, yeah.
than God of
Yep.
War, has no palpable buzz.
Damn, look
Hey,
at
Can
what
I
do you
go
think?
now?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
No, let him go for it. That's fine.
Ham, you have. What do you think
About Spider-Man's buzz?
about the buzz of Spider-Man and
Man,
Jaffe saying that maybe it's just fatigue setting in because people are just tired of that formula, if you will, the PlayStation formula, if you will.
I see what he's saying, but there's no real evidence to prove that, in my opinion. Like, I could see where some people would be like, all right, like I'm kind of over it, or like I've had enough. But to me, that's just for an IP like Spider-Man. Like, I feel like they'd have to they'd have to make this bad for it to be like this would have to be a bad version. And I don't think the buzz, the bad buzz thing is anything that'll happen unless it comes out and it's just not performing as well. I think Spider-Man has plenty of buzz. Like, I think that Mr. Jaffe has kind of been holding a lot of L's lately.
Yeah, it's
It hasn't been his best month. Like, but I will say that I have heard other people say, "Oh, I'm not sure about Spider-Man. I'm not as excited as I was for Miles Morales and stuff like that." I just don't know how genuine that is, and I feel like a lot of people are playing this look at me, I need viewers kind of game where they'll say something ridiculous just to have some people come through and argue with them. We know it's bullshit, but a lot of people don't, and they'll, you know, fall into that trap of, oh shit, I need to let this guy know what it really is, when in reality he's begging you to do that just so he could have a couple thousand more views. You know, you put the right thing on a thumbnail, you could be Xbox Pro all day. You could love Xbox to death. You could have met Phil Spencer and his kids and everything, but you have a podcast and put a thumbnail on there and say Xbox is doomed. That shit is getting views.
Right.
That shit is getting clicked by all sorts of people because misery loves company. Everybody wants to see something like everyone chants, "Oh, I love positivity." Just like it reminds people saying that reminds me of the girls that would be like, "I want a guy for a good personality."
Oh,
That's
yeah.
fucking cap.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
cap.
Yeah.
It's completely cap. Like, no, you don't. You want somebody rugged, somebody a little rough, somebody to throw your ass around. That's what you looking
on.
She wants a
for.
roughneck.
Come on
He
with
wants a
some money.
roughneck.
You better not be broke
but you're
too,
gonna
man. You better not be broke.
bareback.
but you're gonna save face and tell everybody, oh, I only like the positivity. I don't dabble in any negativity. Well, then why the hell do you know the last thing King Thrash said?
Hey, because I like me some gas giants, all right? That's why. That shit makes me volcano all over the place.
what?
You got an eruption. But
I gotta get that guy. I gotta get Thrash on
I-
one day, dude. I gotta get Thrash on. I'm sorry.
but I'm just saying,
Don't
I'm
show
just
up.
saying negativity negativity drives a lot of clicks, and people love. I mean, we live in an era where like everything has to be blown to 10, even if it's a 2.
Right.
So so I'm not surprised to see somebody like Jaffe say something that sounds crazy, right? I mean, he nailed it twice this week on a few different directions with some of the things that he's been out there saying. As for the main topic that you were just talking about, does Spider-Man happen to be a little lackluster this time around, or suffer from, overexertion or something like that from, coming out with games back to back to back. It's kind of like what me and Loke were talking about on our podcast earlier. It's the last. It's really the last taste of game left in your mouth, right? So Spider-Man Miles Morales left a lot of positive for a lot of people. So to say people aren't excited about this one is BS, in my opinion. That's just like somebody saying Halo came out a couple of years ago. The buzz is gone for bro. If Halo Infinite Part 2 got announced in 1 minute, the internet would go nuts.
Day one.
The internet would go nuts. And there'd be some people saying, but Halo is dead. They should stop doing that. That is such a minority that speaks like a majority. That is what that really is at the end of the day. And a lot of people like to pretend that they're the majority when they're speaking for the minority.
This is true.
Another thing too is if he says something like this when the game launched and sales were lackluster, I can understand. But the game's not been out yet. And at least when people are showing it with the last State of Play, when it had various shows talking about, like, people have been hyping it up, especially when people were talking about 12 inches of it. That was hilarious when they did that. So, like, people are talking about it. So what metrics is he going by to say, it's not really there? Like, all right, the game drops and it's selling crazy, then I don't know what you're reaching for when you said that. But
the metric is first, bro. Because if he says it when the facts are already on the table, then he didn't say it first. He can't get receipts. There's no clout. There's nothing. It's why there's people out here with no degrees that were promising, oh yeah, it's over. There's no Activision deal going through. It's done. Why? Because of clout. Because if you sit there and you're like, you know what? I don't know anything about this. I just think maybe this is probably what's going to happen, but I don't know. Suddenly, your viewer count goes from 50 to 12 because you're not out here trying to claim clout. So you have to come out first and pretend like you're Nostradamus with this shit. That's how you get the views, like Ham said. But you know what, Ham? I would like to give David Jeffy the benefit of the doubt. I don't see it as him trying to chase clout. I see it as him misunderstanding the algorithm. Because what I think is happening is he's looking at the people that are in his echo chamber and they're too busy talking about Starfield. They're not spending enough time talking about Spider-Man. So it's not trending. It's not showing up on his feed. So he's like, yo, where's the Spider-Man excitement? It's dead. Dude, the Spider-Man hype is not dead. It's just with the normal people. Like Wize said, it's a gigantic IP. Yes, it is. There's people that don't even know about the console war that are just going to buy Spider-Man. They're going to buy the limited edition console. They don't even care because it's just Spider-Man. And these are the people that make Spider-Man the biggest superhero IP on the planet. It's not King Thresh, so to speak.
But and I hate to say this as well, and just to support your point, this Christmas when Karen goes into GameStop to buy a game for her son for the PS5 or whatever, she's going to see Starfield. Okay, say for example, Karen is going to buy a game for her.
She's taking Spider-Man.
She's taking Spider-Man because she recognizes Spider-Man. Plain and simple. So there you go.
Yeah.
And I mean that's going to sell hand over fist, but anyhow,
it's why IP sells more than new IP. Old IP sells more than new IP because of the recognition, the brand recognition. That's what gives it more value.
That's why there's always a fucking Just Dance every year.
That's why there's another Star Wars game always coming out, a new Star Wars movie.
Exactly.
That's why Hollywood is lazy to make new shit.
Well, and that's
we
why we
figured
sort of
out-
are. So we're
Go-
sort
go-
of that's
sorry,
why
go
we're
ahead.
in our situation though too, right? Because like what these days, because just like movies, games have become so prohibitively expensive to develop, especially in a AAA space,
They
that it
really
doesn't
haven't.
make sense. Yeah.
Motherfuckers have just been making the dumbass decision to make them prohibitively expensive. They're the ones making it expensive. It's not like it's impossible to make a game with $50 million. It's possible. They're just not doing it.
Well, they think that we want something like we want like 1,000 planets, and we want this and that and this and that. But all we really want at the end of the day is a good fucking game. That's
We
it.
do want 1,000 planets, Wise. What we don't want is 9 out of the 10 games having 1,000 planets.
Exactly.
What we want is variety. We want one game with 1,000 planets. Everything else can just be, reasonable.
Exactly.
You take the
All right, anyway.
special out of it, and this is a sports analogy. But you take the special out of it if everyone scores 30 points. Scoring 30 points in the NBA used to mean something. Now it's nothing because everyone does it. Everyone's shooting threes. It's not special anymore. If every game is 60 hours, then it's like, whatever, dude. It's just another big ass game.
Yep. And it just becomes it gets lost in the sea of other big ass games, unfortunately.
Yes.
So yeah.
That's why Sea of Stars, to use a word you just used now, that's why Sea of Stars is special. Because it's approachable. Everyone's jumping in kind of excited because, this is gonna be a very nice 15 to 20 hour experience. But Starfield, there's a lot of people that even I know that got Starfield, but they're like, I'm not gonna finish this. I know I'm not gonna finish it. And they're intimidated by it.
Well, for my own part, right? I was last week started playing Baldur's Gate 3, Starfield, and Sea of Stars concurrently. But because Baldur's Gate 3 and Starfield are just the size that they are, it sort of made me lose my desire to play either of those at this time. And I chose to pick the latter of the three, all of them. So yeah.
And then what happens? Their completion percentages go down. And then it looks like, no one plays the Baldur's Gate. No one likes it because like 0.0005% of people got a bronze trophy. It's like, no, dude, it's intimidating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's like a time commitment, right? Like, I know for my part, like when I look into a game and I say, okay, well, based off my estimations, this game should be anywhere from 40 to 50 hours. I look at, okay, well, what do I have coming up in the next month and a half for all my other responsibilities, my life responsibilities, whether it be a kid's wife or whatever. Do I have the time to devote 50 hours to a single experience? And if the answer is no, then I'll go choose another game and I'll just say, okay, well, I'll get back to that game when I get back to it, So.
And with Baldur's Gate, 50 hours ain't gonna cut it, sweetheart. That's not enough.
That's gonna get you through the introduction, maybe. If you're lucky. Anybody else have anything else to say? All right.
Spider-Man gonna drop. It's gonna be a banker, a certified banker.
Yeah, Spider-Man is gonna be at least it's gonna sell 10 million. It's by the time Christmas is over, it'll probably be upwards of 15 to 20 million. So
Metal Gear is gonna sell 50 million.
I'm closing the show out because this. Okay. Anyhow, before we close up, I want to thank all the people who showed up in the chat. RPG88, as always, do we got to get you on this show because you've been here from day one. De, Callie, of course. I can't say his name. God, Lord, Hungry, Diablo, Cannabis, Guardians. Thank you. And what's this guy? Zone 1 DJ. Thank you for showing up. And for Brizzle, as always, thank you for showing up. You guys, we wouldn't be able to do this without you. And just hit the like and subscribe and tweet it out and tell some of your friends if you enjoyed the show. We're trying to grow this experience. So, every subscriber and every like is what we fight for, one at a time. And last but not least, Eugene Iheen. I'm sorry if I butchered your last name. Thank you for showing up.
I think it's Aileen or Aylin.
Aylin? Okay, well,
Yeah, I think
okay.
so.
Eugene Aylen. I apologize. Well, hopefully that is the right pronunciation. Okay, so let me go ahead and get started with the outros here. Ham, tell us where we can find you, and thank you for showing up.
Yeah, sorry that I wasn't on camera today. Sorry, I wasn't on camera today. My wife and kiddo wanted to be able to play in my game room, so and I kind of got this invitation a little last second. So, but I appreciate you hollering at me, asking me to be on. If you guys are looking for me, you can find me with Loke on the TSWS Gaming YouTube channel. I do shows, or I have that podcast going live Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Monday being the crossover with me and K Mega. Tuesdays, the lowdown with me and Loke. Thursdays behind them six, where I have various people from all over the world on there, and talk about gaming and stuff like that. I definitely got to get you on there at some point, Wize. And then
This
and
past
and then
week on Behind Them Sticks, Ham was interviewing an actual doctor about the effects of gaming on the human mind,
Cool.
the human psyche, and the eyes. You know, like how staring into screens can actually affect you and all that stuff.
yeah, it was a
Carry
really
on.
interesting. It was a really interesting interview. It's only an hour long, like almost exactly, because had to
Very
respect her
technical.
time. She has kids and whatnot, but
Yeah.
she had her sources and everything. Like it was phenomenal. So like if you
There
guys
was
are trying to
zero
learn a little bit
capping.
of something, yeah, no
No,
capping at all. It was
no
it
posturing,
was
no
great.
nothing.
Yeah.
But
This
I
lady would
highly
embarrass
recommend.
a lot of people in spaces. Sorry.
Yeah, definitely. No, you're fine, Luke. I just highly recommend you guys come check out the channel. It's free to subscribe. It don't cost no money. Come support us. Check us out when we're live. It's usually, or it is flat out just a fun time. We just joke around, have a good time, do our best to cover the news and BS between each other. And that's why one of our shows are literally called Bullsitting, because that's exactly what we do. We just sit around, bullshit, talk about the games and stuff like that. But thank you so much, Wize, for having me on. I will definitely have to come through again for you at some point, and definitely would like to have you over on our channel as well to continue to talk. I think we've had you on one time before in the past.
Well,
But
you
no
have invited me. No. You invited me one time, but I never showed up. I couldn't come because I was
right.
gone. Remember? Yeah. I was,
Right. Because I do remember Luke telling me one time
Yeah.
that you were coming, but yeah, okay, so you never made it that time. So
Right.
yeah, we definitely need to get you actually on there, and I'd like to even do a episode of Behind Them Six with you, just to talk about what the history was like with you in gaming and stuff like that. But yeah, thank you so much
2600 back in the day.
for having me on, bud.
No. Pleasure's always this. There's an open door policy. When if you ever want to come in, you don't even have to say wait for an invite. Just say, "Hey, I'm coming on tonight," and it'll be fine. We'll make
No
space.
doubt. I'm gonna actually hop up out of here right now though, because I gotta
Okay.
go straight into my
Oh, yeah.
third podcast, which is with
Oh,
K Mega.
wow,
So
dude! Hardest working man on
I'm
YouTube, dude.
bro, I'm beat, but here I am. But anyways, I'll talk to y'all later.
Thanks.
Ham's been beat for 2 years now, but okay, whatever.
Okay, so his partner in crime, Look, where can we find you, sir?
He just plugged everything. Copy and paste what he said. And I'm also going to my third podcast. At GRG, but I'm not gonna bitch about being tired. So yeah. Cheers, everyone.
All right, thank you, sir. Thank you. Triple, where can we find you, sir?
You can find me on the YouTubes and Twitter X's at Triple Combo Gaming. Kind of pushing towards just focusing purely on my YouTube, so starting to stream back into there. I don't know if I'll touch on Twitch, but keeping it simple for myself. And also gonna have a show idea that I'm working on with my friends, so probably get that kicked off later this month or early next month. And I get properly into the content creation space, so that'll be fun. Yeah.
Right on.
Darth, where can we find you, sir?
Well, here every Friday, and then Twitch at Praxis Darth, and then, like I said, at Xbox if you want to find me and play a game. I'm trying to be more visible if I can play. But yeah, I got a family, so tough fucking luck.
Life happens. Yeah, life happens. All right, cool. Yeah, you can find my name is Wise Old Gamer. You can find me Wise Old Gamer with a Z, Xbox, PlayStation, and Twitter. And yeah, don't follow me on Twitter if you get offended, because I will find a way of offending you. And before you leave, anyone who's listening to this podcast afterwards, there is a Patreon where you can buy us a drink. There's only one level; it's $2 a month. We would be very grateful, and we will have your name mentioned in each podcast. Every Patreon donation is divided evenly amongst all the panel and guests, and so there's like nobody trying to make just a single profit. But yeah, that is our show for tonight. So planning on doing hopefully next week is a little bit more quiet so that we can explore topics that are a little bit more not necessarily news related, but more situated with gamings, but things that, you know, maybe as us as adult gamers have never thought about, but maybe may want to look into. Like, for example, what was like the hardest level you ever remember playing of any video game? What game was it and what made it that hard? So yeah, these are some of the topics that we are thinking about next week. Next week will be our 10th podcast, which is a monumental podcast for at least me. 10 shows in, I never thought I would even do one show. So 10 shows later, I am humbly grateful and just thankful. And we will be doing a giveaway next week for a $20 gift card to whichever platform is your choice: Xbox, Nintendo, PlayStation, or Steam. So yeah, that is our show. Everyone's descriptions can be found in the description section. Prayers to Supa and Doom and Cerebral. Hope everything is going okay with you guys, and hopefully we will see you guys in the podcast next week. Right now we have Xbox 448 scheduled for next week, but let's see if we can even have somebody else maybe surprise stop by. So guys, okay, that's it. That's our show. And remember, you can be anywhere, but you've not been anywhere until first you've been wasted with Wize.
Oh, last thing too. Earlier that Cali person said something about Destiny. Warframe is trash, my good sir. And yeah, that'd be it. Don't watch the stream.
So instead of Lope's last word, that's Triple's last word. There you go. So anyways, all right, guys, y'all have a nice night. Have a safe weekend, and be good or good at it.
Bye, everyone.